Chapter 866. What a disorderly bunch! In the direction of the Void Sword Pavilion, the Mingyu Sword Master sneered. There's nothing we can do. They all come from different forces and it's reasonable that they can't unite. If it were us, this wouldn't happen at all. In some critical moments of life and death, even if we know that we're going to die, the Sword Masters of the Void Sword Pavilion won't back down. The Imperial Star Sword Master was very open-minded about this matter. The Void Sword Pavilion isn't united either. The four Sword Masters formed by the four supreme sword techniques are still fighting openly and secretly. As the Mingyu Sword Master spoke, he thought of the conflict between Ichen, Lan Xin, and the two elders, Floating Light and Flitting Shadow, and frowned. It's true that there are fights, but once the enemy is really in front of them, I believe that they will unite without hesitation and fight against the enemy together. Just like this time, didn't the four elders make the most favorable choice for our Void Sword Pavilion by suspending their differences? The Imperial Star Sword Master smiled. Speaking of them, Imperial Star Sword Master, do you think, if the Void Sword Pavilion joins in this battle and encircles and kills the Tsing Hui Sword Master, will the Tsing Hui Sword Master be able to win in the end? The Mingyu Sword Master suddenly asked. The Imperial Star Sword Master pondered for a while and finally said, I think the result won't change much. It's just that Tsing Hui needs more time. You think so highly of Tsing Hui? You should be very clear about the methods that Tsing Hui has displayed during this period of time. If he wants to escape, no one can stop him. The dimensional lock that raises the level of chaos to the 60th order may be able to stop him. Haha, how much will it cost for us to raise the level of chaos to the 60th order? What about Tsing Hui? He was already a 60th order son of chaos 100 years ago. Who knows how many Taoist treasures he has accumulated? If he also raises the level of chaos, who do you think can outlast the other in the end? As long as he can escape from our ambush once, the initiative will be in his hands. He only needs to avoid our direct confrontation and ambush us from time to time. Unless we stay together all the time and don't go out easily, otherwise, stay together and don't go out easily. Honorable Swordsman Yeming thought for a while and eventually shook his head. They couldn't stay together all the time without going out. Moreover, even if they stayed together, where should they stay? The Divine Wilderness Great World or the True Sun Great World's World Transmission Array. After all, both sides of the teleportation array had to have someone guarding it. Otherwise, Tsing Hui could easily destroy the World Teleportation Array and trap them in the Divine Wilderness Great World or True Sun Great World for 100 or 200 years. During these past 200 years, he'd been able to cultivate patiently and gather all the treasures that could carry the Tao, but they hadn't been able to obtain sufficient treasures to replenish themselves. Without sufficient Tao-bearing treasures, they would not be able to maintain their strength at the 60th level. Below the 60th level, they would not have a dimensional lock. Without a dimensional lock, they would never have any hope of killing Qing Su. They would even have to face his forceful attacks. This was an unsolvable cycle. Thinking of this, Honorable Swordsman Yeming couldn't help but rejoice that the Void Sword Pavilion had made the right choice in time. Honorable Time, Honorable Mengyu, and the other experts in the Chaos Realm finally escaped one by one. Although Tsing Hui chased them into the depths of the Endless Void and killed another Chaos Realm Supreme after Honorable Qi Rui, as time passed, the other Chaos Realm Supreme escaped further and further, leaving Tsing Hui no time to chase after them. After continuously chasing after the remaining Chaos Realm Supreme for a month without rest, Tsing Hui returned to True Sun Great World. At this moment, Honorable Zhen Wu and Honorable Yen He were gathering their subordinates who had been forced into hiding by the foreign Supreme Masters. After sensing that Tsing Hui had entered True Sun Great World, the two Chaos Realm Supreme Masters immediately greeted him and bowed respectfully to Tsing Hui. Greetings, Honorable Swordsman Tsing Hui. The two honorable swordsmen bowed. After all, true Sun Great World had once invaded the divine wilderness Great World. Even if the two of them were at a critical moment of cultivation and did not participate in the war, if Tsing Hui wanted to settle the score, the two of them would still not be able to escape death. Fortunately, after Tsing Hui's gaze swept across the two honorable swordsmen, he acknowledged his original promise. From now on, true Sun Great World will be the barrier of the divine wilderness Great World. As long as you guard true Sun Great World well and inform me immediately when enemies invade true Sun Great World and intend to use true Sun Great World as a springboard to invade the divine wilderness Great World, I will let bygones be bygones. Thank you for your magnanimity, Honorable Swordsman Tsing Hui. Please rest assured. From today onwards, true Sun Great World will be the gateway to the divine wilderness Great World. If any force wants to invade the divine wilderness Great World, they will have to go through our true Sun Great World. Honorable Flaming River immediately expressed his stance. Honorable True Marshal also nodded heavily. I will develop in the direction of a world protector. I will guard the divine wilderness Great World as a world protector. That's good. Tsing Hui nodded, acknowledging the two of them. Honorable Flaming River and Honorable True Marshal heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this, but they soon said worriedly, according to the information we received, the news of the divine wilderness Great World has spread far and wide. It is said that some sovereigns know about it. We have already learned about 3 of these sovereigns: the Void Sword Pavilion, the Scarlet Moon demonic cult behind the 3 Phases sect, and the Divine Sun Temple that Honorable Scarlet Sun went to ask for help. The sovereigns of these forces will enter our true Sun Great World in 60 to 70 years if they are fast, and 100 years if they are slow. We will not be able to stop them at all. We won't be able to stop them. You don't have to pay attention to the sovereigns. I won't force you either. When the time comes, I will destroy the world passage between true Sun Great World and the divine wilderness Great World. If they want to go from true Sun Great World to the divine wilderness Great World, they will need to spend at least a few decades or 100 years on the road. By the time they reach the divine wilderness Great World in 100 or 200 years, I might be able to fight against those sovereigns. Fight against sovereigns. Supreme Flame River and Supreme True Marshal had basically learnt a little about Qing Su's legendary past in the past few years, but they still refused to believe him at all when he said that he would be able to stand up to rulers in a century or 2. However, in front of Tsing Hui, they naturally wouldn't say these words. Instead, they said respectfully, "When the time comes, we'll wait to see Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui's great power." With Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui taking action, those people from the Void Sword Pavilion, the Scarlet Moon demonic cult, and the Sun Palace naturally won't dare to act presumptuously in our true Sun Great World and Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui's divine wilderness Great World. Qing Su nodded. He did not go into detail with the two of them. He only added, during this period of time, check carefully. Don't let anyone leave behind any teleportation formations in the true Sun Great World, just in case it becomes a hidden threat in the end. Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui, don't worry. We understand. Good. After Tsing Hui finished speaking, he gave a few more instructions. Then, his figure flashed and he went straight to Sword Sovereign Ming Yu and Sword Sovereign Fei Xing of the Void Sword Pavilion. Seeing the arrival of Tsing Hui, the two sword sovereigns didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly came forward and greeted him warmly. Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui. Congratulations to Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui for defeating a strong enemy and establishing yourself as the world master of the divine wilderness Great World. The two of you are too polite. The two supreme elders of the Void Sword Pavilion, Yi Chen and Lanxin, are prejudiced against me. It's not easy to rely on the two supreme elders, Floating Light and Sweeping Shadow. Therefore, I would like to invite the two supreme elders to the divine wilderness Great World. If there's a dispute, the two of you can also mediate. How about it? Go to the divine wilderness great world. Sword Sovereign Ming Yu and Sword Sovereign Fei Xing looked at each other. They understood that Tsing Hui was afraid that the two of them would stir up trouble in True Sun Great World. There's no need for that. The divine wilderness great world has floating light, sweeping shadow, Yi Chen and Lan Xin. It should be enough. If the two of us go, it'll just be icing on the cake. Even so, if the two of you go to the divine wilderness great world, you can at least completely guarantee the interests of the Void Sword Pavilion. You don't have to worry about any problems with the agreement between us. After all, the power of the Xuanxu world controlled by 4 Primal Chaos Realm and the Xuanxu world controlled by 6 Primal Chaos Realm are different. Tsing Hui smiled. Although these words made some people unhappy, the Bright Jade Swordmaster and the Imperial Star Swordmaster thought about it for a while and felt that it made sense. If Tsing Hui really wanted to attack the Void Sword Pavilion, even if he killed his way into the Xuanxu world, with the power of Yi Chen, Lan Xin, floating light and sweeping shadow, the 4 primal elders, they could only barely resist and be in an invincible position. If they wanted to trap Tsing Hui or even kill him in the Xuanxu world, it would be beyond their power. But if the two of them were included, it would be different. Cooperation was often built on the situation where the two sides were equal in power or each had a trump card. Even though Tsing Hui would not fall out with the Void Sword Pavilion at this time as long as he kept his rationality, but in the face of the annual income of tens of thousands of Dao items, it was better to be safe than sorry. In addition, Tsing Hui did not want them to stir up trouble in True Sun Great World. Out of consideration of the trust between the two sides, Sword Sovereign Ming Yu and Sword Sovereign Fei Xing hesitated for a moment before agreeing. If that's the case, then we will follow Tsing Hui to the divine wilderness great world. Please. Tsing Hui gestured with his hand. Ming Yu and Fei Xing had to leave True Sun Great World. Otherwise, who knew if they could cooperate with Yi Chen, Lan Xin and the others to open up an additional world passage. Immediately, the three of them passed through the world transmission array and quickly arrived at the divine wilderness great world. As soon as they arrived at the divine wilderness great world, Tsing Hui directly destroyed the last world transmission array that connected to True Sun Great World. This scene immediately caused the faces of Sword Sovereign Ming Yu and Sword Sovereign Fei Xing to change slightly. Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui, what do you mean by this? Although time, Ming Yu and the other primal elders have been expelled from True Sun Great World by me, in order to prevent them from returning and stirring up trouble, it's better to completely cut off the connection between the Divine Wilderness Great World and True Sun Great World. What do you two think? But in this way, in the future, the Sword Masters of the Void Sword Pavilion will have to rush to the Divine Wilderness Great World. How would the two Sword Sovereigns know that the first to arrive at True Sun Great World would be the Sword Masters of the Void Sword Pavilion, and not the people of the Scarlet Moon Demonic Sect and the Sun Temple? If it were the people of the Scarlet Moon Demonic Sect and the Sun Temple, wouldn't we be able to buy more time for the Void Sword Pavilion if we cut off the transmission array between the two great worlds? Tsing Hui said with a smile. In the end, he added, moreover, every year you stay in our divine wilderness great world, you will be able to obtain 1,500 to 2,000 Dao Aura treasures. If you stay for another 100 years, you will be able to obtain a total of 150,000 to 200,000 Dao Aura treasures. These will all belong to you, so why not? The Bright Jade Sword Master and the Flying Star Sword Master looked at each other before nodding their heads. The World Transmission Array had already been destroyed by Tsing Hui, so what could they do if they did not agree? Could it be that they would really start a war with Tsing Hui? If they really started a war, they would only be blocked by Tsing Hui in the Xuanxu Great World, and would not dare to act rashly. At that time, they would completely miss out on the additional benefits of the Taoist spiritual items. Chapter 867. Sword Venerable Tsing Hui. In the Void Sword Pavilion, the two Supreme Elders, Floating Light and Sweeping Shadow, were already waiting outside. When they saw Tsing Hui return with Ming Yu and Fei Xing, their faces were full of smiles. Greetings to the two sword venerables. Tsing Hui cupped one hand in the other before his chest. Congratulations to Sword Venerable Tsing Hui for wiping out the Divine Wilderness Great World. From now on, you are the uncrowned king of the Divine Wilderness Great World. This is all thanks to the Void Sword Pavilion's willingness to stand by and watch. Otherwise, it would not be so easy for me to wipe out the Divine Wilderness Great World. Tsing Hui said. Although leaving the Void Sword Pavilion in the Divine Wilderness Great World required him to give away some carrier objects, the advantage was that if one or two ignorant Chaos Realm Supremes happened to run into the Divine Wilderness Great World, the Void Sword Pavilion would deal with them. There was no need for Tsing Hui to deal with them personally. In this way, he could free up his hands and concentrate on the upcoming trip to Earth. I came here this time mainly to discuss with you the method of collecting the carrier objects in the Divine Wilderness Great World. Hearing Tsing Hui mention the carrier objects, the two Supreme Elders, Floating Light and Sweeping Shadow, as well as Ming Yu and Fei Xing behind Tsing Hui, did not dare to be negligent. At the same time, their expressions became solemn. Sword Venerable Tsing Hui, please speak. I wonder how many Sons of Chaos there are in the Void Sword Pavilion in our Divine Wilderness Great World. There are quite a few. Among the Sons of Chaos on our side, there are 83 of them in the Boundary Realm, 2,000 of them in the Traversal Realm, and 10,000 of them in the Divine True Body Realm. Although the number is not small, it is not a simple matter to include the entire Divine Wilderness Great World. Moreover, we can't guarantee that when collecting the carrier objects, no one will fill their pockets, right? The question raised by Tsing Hui gave Floating Light, Sweeping Shadow, Ming Yu, Fei Xing, and the other Supreme Elders a headache. In fact, the production of Dao-carrying items in many worlds was not low. At the very least, worlds that produced over 1,000 Dao-carrying items each year should account for 20 to 30% of the Dao-carrying items in the universe. However, even if they could produce over 1,000 items a year, it didn't mean that the beings that ruled this world could earn the same amount. In the end, it was because cultivators who were searching for items that could carry Dao would hide them in secret, or simply use them to improve their own chaos tier. No one would be able to tell if the other party had really used up the Dao vessel. Under such circumstances, a world that could produce 1,000 Dao items a year would be lucky to have half of what belonged to the world's ruler. And this was under the assumption that there was only one sovereign in this world. If the world was like True Sun Great World, where the three great empires of Flame River, True Martial, and Crimson Sun stood in great numbers, the number of Dao-carrying items that the upper echelons could collect would be even fewer. This was an unavoidable problem for anyone. However, if they wanted to collect the items that could carry the Dao, they could only leave it to the Sons of Chaos. If he wasn't a Son of Chaos, he wouldn't necessarily be able to tell if a Dao-bearing item was placed in front of him. Honorable Swordsman Tsing Hui means, use the method of grouping to search for the Dao vessel. Grouping? Elder Floating Light was a little puzzled. Was this method useful? The grouping I'm talking about is not the grouping of the Sons of Chaos within the Void Sword Pavilion, but a Son of Chaos from my Divine Wilderness Great World and the Void Sword Pavilion. The two of them will form a team to search for the Carrier of the Way. In this way, even if the two of them want to take the Carrier of the Way, because they represent different worlds, they will naturally have different ideas, and the monitoring effect will be much better. When Elder Floating Light heard this, although he agreed with Tsing Hui's statement, he guessed that it was mainly because Tsing Hui didn't trust the Sons of Chaos from the Void Sword Pavilion to search for the Dao vessel. Thinking of this, he knew that this would not improve the efficiency of searching for the Dao vessel too much, but he still agreed. Okay, as Honorable Swordsman Tsing Hui said, we'll group them. Since we're going to group them, we naturally need to establish a reporting agency. I think Bai Shuiying is the most suitable to lead this reporting agency. Below, we'll set up dozens of auditors to be responsible for reviewing the reports submitted below. These auditors will be jointly sent by our Divine Wilderness Great World and the Void Sword Pavilion. Okay. Elder Floating Light nodded. The two immediately discussed the details of this organization again. After a full 6 hours, they reached a consensus. When the matter was settled, Elder Floating Light breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "The business is done. Next, let's talk about some digressions. We have handed over Qi Peng, who betrayed Xing Hui, Honorable Swordsman Chang Hong, and the others, to Shuaying for her disposal. However, she has been waiting for you, Honorable Swordsman Xing Hui. She said that she would judge the cultivator named Qi Peng in front of the other people of the Baihong sword sect. Today, since Honorable Swordsman Xing Hui is here, we can carry out this matter." Qi Peng Sword Sage. Xing Hui had heard his name more than once. Because of him, the cultivators of their camp had been in danger twice. In fact, in addition to Qi Peng, there was another traitor in the Divine Wilderness Great World, Remnant Sword. However, no one knew where Remnant Sword was hiding. When Honorable Zhu Zhao was in charge of the Divine Wilderness Great World, he could not find his whereabouts for a full 100 years. No one knew whether he was dead or had left the Divine Wilderness Great World. Then, I'll bring the people of the Baihong sword sect to judge this traitor," Xing Hui said as he followed Elder Floating Light and the others into the mysterious void world. Xing Hui had given full authority to Judge Qi Peng to Sword Master Chang Hong, Sword Master Peng Guang, Sword Master Bai Heng, and the others. He spent most of his time cooperating with Floating Light, Sweeping Shadow, Bright Jade, and Facing Sword Masters to establish an organization that existed specifically to collect Dao objects. This organization was eventually named Daoist Scripture, which meant to collect Dao aura. After taking care of these matters in half a month, Xing Hui began to plan for his trip to Earth. The one who moved Earth away was a Grand Unity Immortal Lord, and the Grand Unity Immortal Lord of the Immortal Dao civilization is probably at the level of Primal Chaos Supremes. I should be able to deal with him, but I have to be careful. Earth is known as the source world in the Immortal Dao civilization, and its weight is definitely not something an ordinary world can compare to. Although it was only a Grand Unity Immortal Lord who took Earth away, that was news from several decades ago. Now that several decades have passed, it's not strange for them to transfer Earth to an Origin Immortal Emperor. If that Origin Immortal Emperor treats me as an invader of the lineage of the Master of Primal Chaos and doesn't even give me a chance to explain myself, then I'll be in trouble. Xing Hui muttered to himself. He had to take this matter seriously. Moreover, given the weight of the source world, it was completely reasonable for Earth to be moved to the Origin Immortal Emperor's Immortal Kingdom for heavy protection. I still have to make a trip to the Hidden Sword Continent, Xing Hui thought to himself as he hurried over to the Hidden Sword Continent. The problem of the Divine Wilderness Great World had been resolved. All the Primal Chaos Supremes who had invaded the Divine Wilderness Great World had been expelled, but the 7-star Sword Spirit who had been stationed at the Myriad Swords Peak had still not returned. However, Xing Hui was determined to find the 7-star Sword Spirit and go to the Immortal Dao civilization to endorse him, so he naturally would not give up so easily. He did not sense any trace of the 7-star Sword Spirit in the Hidden Sword sect, so he began to search inch by inch with the sect as the center. Xing Hui used a year to search every inch of the Hidden Sword Continent, but he still could not find any trace of the 7-star Sword Spirit. After wasting a year for nothing, Xing Hui could not help but feel a little irritable. However, when he thought of the Immortal Dao civilization's crisis if he used the teleportation formation to go to Earth, he could only be patient and continue to expand his search. Not only did he search the Hidden Sword Continent, but he also searched the seas around the Hidden Sword Continent and even under the sea. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he had to dig 3 feet into the ground to search. Seven-star sword spirit, just where are you hiding? Tsing Hui muttered to himself. At the same time, he split a part of his consciousness to search for the hidden sword venerable, hoping to find the whereabouts of the seven-star sword spirit through the hidden sword venerable, who had disappeared along with the seven-star sword spirit. Unfortunately, there was still no movement. I'll search for another 3 years. If I still can't find the seven-star sword spirit after 3 years, I can only choose to cultivate the immortal slashing sword qi in seclusion. If I can cultivate the immortal slashing sword qi to perfection in a few decades, I might be able to fight against a ruler in the chaos realm. Tsing Hui made up his mind. As for the safety of the people on Earth, he could only hope for the best. Just as Tsing Hui was about to continue searching for the seven-star sword spirit, a slight wave of energy spread out. Immediately after, Tsing Hui clearly felt that his own sword intent, and even the coalescence great Tao that he had comprehended, began to undergo a transformation that was not considered huge, but it was obvious that he had improved. The divine true body, which represented the strength of his great Tao, was constantly compressed during this transformation process, until it was compressed to a size of 4 meters. Although it had not reached the same level as his original body, this improvement was still significant. If he had this cultivation level 2 years ago, he would not have needed to defeat the invaders of the divine wilderness great world one by one. Even if all the Chaos Realm Supremes and the 6 Great Supremes of the Void Sword Pavilion swarmed together, they would be able to fight head-on. Tsing Hui's gaze instantly fell on the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit. The Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit, with the support of his great Tao, was already equivalent to the Chaos Realm in terms of realm. However, because Tsing Hui's great Tao was too weak, the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit's realm was only at the Chaos Realm, but its true combat power was limited to the level of Boundary Realm with a thought. It could be said to be the weakest Chaos Realm in history. Fortunately, during this period of time, Tsing Hui had killed more than a dozen Chaos Realm Supremes, braving the danger of the stagnation of the Great Tao Law to condense more than a dozen Tao fruits, sparing no effort to support the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit. After a year of consolidation, the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit finally broke through, and its life had undergone a qualitative change, truly stepping into the Chaos Realm. Due to the relationship between him and the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit, when the Scarlet Abyss Sword broke through to the Chaos Realm, it immediately fed back to Tsing Hui, which led to a significant increase in his cultivation level. Cultivating the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit into a true Chaos Realm Sword Spirit can actually increase my cultivation level. Tsing Hui was deep in thought. Perhaps the cultivation of the Great Tao Law had gone down a wrong path. Tao validation, what was Tao validation? It was to let one's Tao be recognized by other living beings and other Tao. It was just like running for president through speeches in the mortal world. If one succeeded in running for president, it was equivalent to successfully validating one's Tao. Then, the only problem is Tao. The strength of my Tao is limited. It's fine to bless the Scarlet Abyss Sword, but if I bless too many targets, it will instead drag down the evolution of my great Tao Law. Moreover, if I bless other living beings with my great Tao Law, and they switch to other great Taos halfway through their cultivation, I won't receive any returns from the great Tao I bless them with. It will only be a waste. Therefore, choosing a target to impart Tao to is equally important. Tsing Hui was enlightened. Just as Tsing Hui was comprehending the series of changes brought about by the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit's breakthrough, the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit's voice suddenly sounded. "Father, do you want to sense the 7-star Sword Spirit's location?" Tsing Hui's heart stirred as though he had thought of something. He hurriedly asked, "Scarlet Abyss, you and the 7-star Sword Spirit are both spiritual beings. Can you sense its location?" "I seem to have some connection with the 7-star Sword Spirit. I can sense its location. It's under the sea 3 million kilometers away from us." Chapter 868. Whoosh! Tsing Hui's figure shuttled through the seabed and soon reached a depth of 60,000 meters. Finally, Ching Su sensed the abnormality of this region of the sea at an oceanic trench. This should be the place. Oh, this layer of the world barrier? However, this layer of the world barrier is already very weak. It's barely able to withstand the water pressure of 60,000 meters. Moreover, at this rate, this layer of the world barrier will collapse under the water pressure in at most 100 or 200 years, exposing this world to outsiders. Tsing Hui stood in front of this small world, and did not dare to act rashly. He was afraid that he would accidentally break this extremely weak layer of the world barrier in front of him. Seven-star sword spirit, please show yourself or open your world, Tsing Hui said loudly. His voice paused for a moment, and soon, a layer of ripples spread out, forming a transparent door. Tsing Hui slowly walked forward and cautiously stepped into this world. Compared to 100 years ago, the seven-star sword spirit was now even weaker. Of course, this so-called weakness was only equivalent to Tsing Hui. In fact, the energy waves emitted from its body were still not inferior to any domain realm expert. If one took into account the various methods it had mastered and this mini-world with a diameter of more than 10 kilometers, even a divine true body expert would have to suffer defeat in front of it. Oh, you, the seven-star sword spirit stared at Tsing Hui in disbelief. Are you really that little fellow who came to my mountain 100 years ago? This change is too great. 100 years is equivalent to a lifetime for mortals. Isn't it reasonable to have some changes? Tsing Hui chuckled. Then this change is too great. Moreover, the feeling you give me is somewhat different from those primal chaos realm experts, as if the seven-star sword spirit looked at Tsing Hui and seemed to be thinking hard about something. Then, it suddenly opened its eyes and stared at Tsing Hui. It can't be the feeling you have now is like a real great golden immortal. A true zenith heaven golden immortal? Tsing Hui was intrigued. Are you talking about the origin immortal emperor of the immortal Tao civilization? No. Not an immortal emperor of the great all-embracing heaven, but a golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven. A true golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, who could survive for a short period of time even in the terrifying environment of chaos. A zenith heaven golden immortal who has truly jumped out of the three realms and is no longer within the five elements. Speaking of this, the seven-star sword spirit could not help but exclaim, "How is this possible? There is actually someone who can cultivate to become a real golden immortal now. The great Tao of the entire world is broken. It's extremely difficult to cultivate to become an ordinary zenith heaven golden immortal, and becoming a great divine ability is completely reduced to an extravagant hope. How can anyone cultivate to become a true zenith heaven golden immortal?" Tsing Hui was puzzled when he heard the seven-star sword spirit's exclamation. What? Is there a difference between real and fake almighty immortals? You don't understand. I've only heard about this from Lord Taishang. Lord Taishang once said that there are two kinds of golden immortals of the great all-embracing heaven. One is those who ascend to the great all-embracing heaven and gain the favor of the great all-embracing heaven. Although this kind of golden immortal is also called almighty immortal, they are only ordinary almighty immortals. Their achievements will be limited to the world for the rest of their lives. The other kind is golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven, who has completely walked their own path. This kind of golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven is even rarer than those great divine ability. And only this kind of golden immortal can truly prove the Tao of origin and become a chaotic golden immortal, unlike Lord Taishang and the others who were bestowed by the way of heaven and became a saint. Speaking of this, the seven-star sword spirit could not help shaking his head. I'm wrong, I must be wrong. My eyes are dim and my spirituality is lax. I'm having an illusion. How can a real golden immortal of the great all-embracing heaven appear in such an environment? Tsing Hui looked at the seven-star sword spirit and waited patiently for Tsing Hui to calm down. After shouting for a while, the seven-star sword spirit gradually calmed down. Finally, his eyes fell on Tsing Hui again. After a while, he sighed. Although it's inconceivable, I really want to hope that what happened to you is true. If that's the case, then it proves that we still have hope. What hope? Tsing Hui looked at the seven-star sword spirit, who had calmed down, and asked. The seven-star sword spirit shook his head, and did not continue on this topic. Instead, he said, originally, I didn't intend to get involved in the affairs of the outside world, but if you have something to say, tell me. If I can help, I'll do my best to help. Tsing Hui hurriedly said, I remember telling you that I came from the source world. Now that the source world has been discovered by the cultivators of the immortal Tao civilization, they've probably brought it to the core of the immortal Tao civilization's gathering place. In that world, there are relatives and friends of mine. I can't leave them alone. Therefore, I plan to go to the source world to take a look through the world teleportation formation. However, because I cultivate the techniques of the Master of Chaos, to prevent the cultivators of the immortal Tao civilization from treating me as an enemy, I want to bring you along. On one hand, you can prove my identity. On the other hand, you're all members of the immortal Tao civilization, so it should be easier to talk to you. The Master of Chaos's lineage, the seven-star sword spirit, looked at Tsing Hui with a strange expression. Who told you that you're a cultivator of the Master of Chaos's lineage? You mean, you're now the seven-star sword spirit looked at Qing Su. Just when he was about to say something, he thought of something very soon and began to organize his word. Only after quite a while did he say, if I'm not mistaken, the direction you've taken on the path of cultivation has already surpassed everyone, including the so-called Master of Chaos, Master of Time, Master of Gods, and even our immortal Tao civilization. Can you elaborate? Your current state. We can use another way to describe it. Do you know of the Chaos Demon Gods in the immortal Tao civilization's ancient legends? Chaos Demon Gods? It's said that the great legendary Disk of Life achieved its Tao by slaying 3,000 Chaos Demon Gods. Are those the Chaos Demon Gods you speak of? That's right. The seven-star sword spirit nodded. Most of the space we know of is currently occupied by the Master of Time, the Master of Chaos, and the Master of Gods. There's an even vaster world beyond the space we know of, but there's a terrifying energy in that world. We call that energy Chaos Chi. When he said that, he stared at Qing Su. Living beings that possess their own Tao possess the right to survive in chaotic energy. These living beings are collectively known as chaotic beings. You mean, another kind of life essence? The fifth level of life above mortals, spirit beasts, holy beasts, and divine beasts? That's not a bad description. The seven-star sword spirit paused for a moment. Using the information you know, the evil gods are chaos lifeforms, the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of Gods are chaos lifeforms, and the 3,000 chaos demon gods are chaos lifeforms as well. Even the great being Pan, who created the world and created our world, was also a chaos lifeform, although some chaos lifeforms are still in their infancy while others are at their peak. The Master of Time, the Master of Chaos, and the Master of Gods, they're all chaos beings. Tsing Hui was inwardly shocked. Then, he thought of something and hurriedly asked, then what about the Master of Time, the great masters, and the most powerful and mighty saint of the immortal Tao civilization, and the Tao ancestor who's incarnated into the heavenly Tao? Master of Time? Great masters? Saints? Tao ancestor? When the seven-star sword spirit mentioned the saint's name, he clearly felt rather apprehensive. His expression was humble and respectful, nowhere near as casual as Qing Su's words. I wouldn't dare make wild guesses about the saints, but they shouldn't be chaos beings. As for the great Tao ancestor, He's actually one of the 3,000 demon gods. As for the Master of Time and the Great Masters, they're just pawns used by the Master of Chaos to nurture the 12 divine beasts. Pawns? Yes, there are 12 divine beasts under the Master of Chaos. These 12 divine beasts represent 12 great Daos, and if they can mature, they'll be like the 12 heavenly capital god fiendish formation back then, simulating the great disk's true form. Even if the feasibility of this plan isn't high, the Master of Chaos can spend billions of years to nurture these 12 traders into chaos beings, which is what you call the 4th level chaos realm, or the level of the evil god. The Master of Chaos method of nurturing them is to have the great masters assimilate into the Tao. Assimilate into the Tao? Xing Hui suddenly thought of his relationship with the Scarlet Abyss Sword. You're saying that the great masters assimilate into the Tao to strengthen the 12 divine beasts? Or are they simply conveyors of the divine beast's power? The 7-star sword spirit nodded solemnly. Based on my many years of observation, this is most likely the truth. If you secretly ask around, some of the ancient great masters themselves know their own situation. This is also why the evil gods have always been able to survive despite being banished by the Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, and the Master of Gods. Once they become great masters, if they want to progress further in the future, they either have to receive the Master of Chaos support and become a Tao ancestor like the 12 divine beasts, or break the shackles the Master of Chaos has placed on them, in other words, proving one's Tao through strength. Tao ancestor, proving one's Tao through strength. Xing Hui quickly connected the dots in his mind. Perhaps, the 12 divine beasts in the Master of Chaos domain were the so-called saints of the immortal Tao civilization. The Master of Chaos method is akin to killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. How difficult is it to nurture the 12 divine beasts with the method of assimilating into the Tao? Moreover, this method is equivalent to burying the potential of all cultivators in our civilization, because all cultivators serve the growth of the 12 divine beasts. Even if the Master of Chaos method is to allow the 12 divine beasts to become true chaos beings and evolve to a level that is not inferior to the evil gods, so that they can observe the true form of the great master, the price is too great. The 7-star sword spirit paused for a moment. At present, our immortal Tao civilization's main strategy against the cultivators under the Lord of Chaos is to expose the Lord of Chaos's scheme. Those who have learned the truth are rather dissatisfied with this approach, and some secretly refuse to obey the Lord of Chaos's orders. Others feign compliance but secretly oppose. This is also the reason why our immortal Tao civilization has been able to survive in the cracks. Chapter 869. Qing Su nodded slightly when he heard that. Although the Lord of Chaos could radiate his power to the myriad worlds, he was clearly not a great being who was meticulous in the details. His style of doing things was crude. The immortal Tao civilization could not resist the invasion of the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods at its peak, let alone now when there were only a few small fries left. The main reason why the immortal Tao civilization could survive to this day was that the immortal Tao civilization did not have enough strength to pursue them. There is a fundamental difference between chaos beings and beings below. Beings below the chaos level are imprinted with the characteristics of their world and cannot be changed, but beings at the chaos level, as long as you want, you can imitate the cultivation style of any lineage. Immortal Tao system, divine beast system, technology system, faith system? As long as you have a suitable cultivation method, it will be easy. Easy, Xing Hui shook his head. It might be easy for others, but he cultivated the great Tao of unity. If he imitated other cultivation systems too much, it would only interfere with his own cultivation. For safety's sake, I hope that the 7-star sword spirit can come with me to the immortal Tao civilization. Xing Hui said again. The 7-star sword spirit glanced at Xing Hui, but seeing Tsing Hui's solemn expression and a hint of pleading, it could not refuse directly. After hesitating for a moment, it sighed and said, "Fine, fine. I'll go with you for the sake of the hope you carry. What's wrong with that? However, I must make one thing clear to you. I might be able to give some face to the older generation of Grand Luo immortals, since they have more or less heard of my name, but I can't do anything to the new Grand Luo immortals born in recent years." "I understand. In fact, as long as I am not surrounded by several Grand Luo immortals, it is not a problem for me to escape with my life," Tsing Hui said. Before the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit broke through to the Primal Chaos realm and gave him a round of feedback, he would have a slim chance of surviving against a Grand Eternity immortal. Now that he had the feedback of the Scarlet Abyss Sword Spirit, his combat power, he had probably reached a level where he could fight 40 to 50 Primal Chaos Realm Supremes head-on. Even though he still couldn't fight a Grand Luo immortal head-on, a Grand Luo immortal wouldn't be able to instantly kill him in a short period of time. As long as he could maintain this state for a period of time, it wouldn't be difficult for him to swiftly retreat based on his unique characteristics of existing and non-existing. That's true. You're someone who has the potential to become a true Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, but now you're too weak, so weak that you don't even have the qualifications to step into the chaos. I really don't understand how someone as weak as you can walk such a path. I'm afraid that other than me, an old fellow who once followed the saint, even those Zenith Heaven Immortals and even those with great divine abilities wouldn't be able to see through the true mystery of you. It's as if no one would imagine a man dressed like a beggar to be a prince, even if he looks almost identical to that prince. The Seven-Star Sword Spirit sighed. When Tsing Hui heard the Seven-Star Sword Spirit's words, somehow, he felt that there was something wrong with this analogy. After a while, he said again, "Have you ever seen a true Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? Do you know how they cultivate?" A true Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal is a chaotic life form in the general sense. Since they're chaotic life forms, they naturally have to cultivate and explore the chaos void. It's like how whales can only be raised in the sea. If you're given a small pond, the whale will either be malnourished or starve to death. There's no other way. The chaos void, Tsing Hui noted it down. But you absolutely can't go to the chaos void now. As far as I know, you have to be at least at the level of a Zenith Heaven Immortal to be able to absorb the Chaos Yuan Qi. And if you want to survive in the Chaos Void, even if it's temporary, you have to become a great divine ability. If you rashly go to the Chaos Void now, only death will await you. Zenith Heaven Immortal. I understand. Tsing Hui agreed, there's no time to lose. I think we should head to the Fortune mainland now and activate the transmission array there to head to the Immortal Dao civilization. You just have to lead the way. Oh right, do you have any small worlds or immortal kingdoms? You can bring me there too. My spirituality is already not strong, I can't withstand too much suffering along the way. I have a small world that was opened by a great divine ability expert. I'll have to trouble you to rest in it for a while. A small world opened by a great divine ability expert? That's fine. The Seven-Star Sword Spirit agreed. Tsing Hui immediately took out the small world and asked at the same time, Senior Seven-Star, Hidden Sword Venerable should also be in this small world. Why don't I see him? Hidden Sword Venerable, that little guy. His cultivation path has already reached its end. After pleading with him, he decided to switch to the Sword Immortal Dao. He's now in seclusion at my place. With my aura concealing him, you naturally won't be able to see him. After the Seven-Star Sword Spirit finished speaking, he waved his hand. In the depths of the small world, he saw an old man cultivating sword chi. Who else could it be other than Hidden Sword Venerable? With the guidance of the Seven-Star Sword Spirit, Sword Venerable Hidden Sword's cultivation conversion was extremely efficient. The sword aura that he had painstakingly cultivated was not inferior to a strike from a divine true body expert. Considering that sword immortals were proficient in killing, hidden sword venerable should be at the void-shattering realm. Should I wake him up? There's no need. Let's head to the Fortune mainland first. As Qing Su spoke, he gave the seven-star sword spirit a reminder before putting him and the small world into the Fortune mainland. Without further delay, the seven-star sword spirit flew at full speed towards the Fortune mainland. During this period of time, the Fortune mainland had also suffered a lot of damage. Fortunately, the Fortune mainland was too remote, and the cultivators who came to the Fortune mainland were after the Tao treasure. They wouldn't deliberately destroy any buildings. Even though the power structure on the Fortune mainland had been reshuffled, the situation had quickly stabilized in the past 2 years. Currently, the Fortune mainland was still under Rockhart's control. When Tsing Hui arrived at the Fortune mainland, he directly called for Rockhart, who was already in the Golden Core realm, and gave her a lot of resources. Over the years, he had killed more than a dozen Chaos Realm Supremes. Every time, he would rush into the small worlds of these Supremes and wreak havoc. From time to time, when he had the time, he would naturally plunder some precious resources from the small world. If these resources were leaked out, it would be enough to make countless first-thought World Ascension realm experts bleed. Although a portion of it had been given to Venerable Zhu Zhao, Venerable Firmament, and the others, the leftover materials were enough to allow Rockhart's cultivation to advance by leaps and bounds. At the same time, it allowed her to stay on the Fortune mainland and take care of the transmission array for him. She would be able to activate the transmission array again 10 years later. Tsing Hui had carefully considered the 10 years. He had been away from the divine wilderness great world for too long. If the Void Sword Pavilion couldn't detect his presence, they might cause some trouble. If he turned around and returned after a year like last time, he might not be able to smoothly resolve the matter on Earth. Therefore, 10 years was the most suitable number. After explaining clearly, Tsing Hui didn't waste any more time. He stood at the center of the transmission array and quickly released the void crystals. After doing this, he didn't activate the transmission array immediately. Instead, he took out the World Rainbow Bridge. I wonder if the World Rainbow Bridge can lock onto the coordinates of the two worlds through this transmission array. If it can lock onto the coordinates, it might be able to open a fixed passage between the divine wilderness great world and Earth. At that time, it would be much easier for people on Earth to travel to and from the divine wilderness great world. As he thought about this, Tsing Hui activated the information-gathering function of the World Rainbow Bridge. Then, he sent a surge of Space Force into the transmission array. With the influx of Space Force, the energy within the void crystals was rapidly absorbed by the transmission array. A wave of Space Force suddenly spread out from the transmission array. When the spatial ripples spread out, Qing Su also focused his attention on the World Bridge. He wanted to see something, but very soon, he stowed the World Bridge away regretfully. The ripples are too weak. The person who created this teleportation formation has to be in existence at the level of great ability at the very least. Otherwise, it's impossible for them to create such a profound formation. Who knows how many trillion light-years away in a single breath, but the energy ripples it gives off aren't even 1/100th of a teleportation formation of a regular world. This was the highest manifestation of technology. It was like using a nuclear bomb to blow up a building. As the World Transmission Array operated, the surrounding environment rapidly changed. Red and blue streams of light constantly flew around him. After an unknown amount of time, the rapidly fading streams of light finally calmed down. As the Space Force dissipated, Tsing Hui appeared in a huge man-made plaza. As Tsing Hui's figure appeared, streams of light rapidly whizzed over from all directions. At this moment, there were already 30 or 40 powerful auras in front of Tsing Hui. Clearly, these people had sensed the space force fluctuations of the world transmission array and immediately rushed over to check out the situation. Tsing Hui's gaze swept across these people. Among the dozens of cultivators from the immortal Tao civilization, there were 3 Grand Unity Immortals who were equivalent to Primal Chaos Supremes. The remaining dozens of people were true Immortals who were equivalent to world creation with a thought, and 10 or so false Immortals who were equivalent to Traversal Realm cultivators. This power was still within Tsing Hui's scope of understanding. However, before he could take a good look at these cultivators from the immortal Tao civilization, a vast and terrifying aura mixed with a dozen or so energy waves that were not inferior to Primal Chaos Supremes flew in his direction at an extremely fast speed. Before the person arrived, the earth-shattering aura had already descended, causing Tsing Hui's expression to freeze slightly. A Zenith Heaven Immortal. Only a Zenith Heaven Immortal could cause him to feel apprehensive and fearful of an aura. Considering his goal of returning to Earth, Tsing Hui forcibly suppressed the thought of turning around and leaving in his heart. He patiently stared in the direction of the dozen or so auras that were rapidly approaching and waited quietly. I suddenly feel like writing another chapter. Chapter 870. Earth was only about 10,000 kilometers in diameter. Even though Earth had been moved to a special space similar to a small world, it did not take long for a Zenith Heaven Immortal to reach it. From the moment Tsing Hui sensed the Zenith Heaven Immortal's aura to the moment the Zenith Heaven Immortal arrived in front of Tsing Hui, the entire process took less than 3 breaths. Just as Tsing Hui finished surveying his surroundings, the Zenith Heaven Immortal led a dozen Grand Unity Immortals who were equivalent to Primal Chaos Supremes to the scene. Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai. One of the Grand Unity Immortals who had been secretly guarding Tsing Hui stepped forward and bowed. At the same time, he glanced warily at Tsing Hui. This is the cultivator who suddenly appeared from the teleportation formation. However, he did not do anything after appearing. He doesn't seem to have any ill intentions. The leader of the group, Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai, nodded. He looked at Qing Su. Who are you? You must be the leader of this gathering place, right? I'm not your enemy. Strictly speaking, I'm also from this world. However, by chance I went to another world. If the leaders, marshals, and generals of this world from 100 years ago are still here, they should be able to recognize me. You're from the Source World? Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai looked at Tsing Hui differently. At this moment, one of the men who came with Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai suddenly stepped forward and whispered, Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai, this person. When I brought him here, I did hear the native cultivators of the Source World mention him. He should be called Tsing Hui. It was him who led the beings of the Source World and developed them into a level 10 civilization. However, why he was able to lead the entire civilization to the path of cultivation is still unknown. Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai, you were the one who arranged for the transfer of the cultivators of the Source World. Go find someone to verify this. Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai said. Yes, Immortal Emperor. I'll send a message now. How are the people of the Source World? You didn't hurt them, did you? When Tsing Hui heard about the whereabouts of the people from Source World, he immediately went forward to inquire. Stop. Stay where you are. Don't move. An immortal monarch stepped forward and shouted, You'd better not do anything that would cause us to misunderstand. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless. I've already said that I'm not your enemy. I've also brought along someone you're familiar with. He should be able to prove that I have no ill intentions towards your civilization. After saying that, Qing Su waved his hand. It was such a simple action, but it caused the nearby Grand Unity Immortals to react as though they were facing a great enemy. Some of them even stimulated their own immortal energy, linking it together to form a huge ceiling formation that was about to suppress Tsing Hui in one fell swoop. Fortunately, Immortal Emperor Songhai seemed to see that Xing Hui only wanted to summon one person. Before these Tai immortals could attack, he waved his hand and stopped them. "Wait a moment." As he spoke, his gaze had already landed on the 7 stars sword spirit that Xing Hui had transferred out of the small world. "Senior 7 stars, thank you for your trouble," Xing Hui said. He did not seem to care about the ceiling formation formed by several Grand Unity immortals at all. The 7 stars sword spirit looked around and sensed the changes in the aura. There's indeed a sense of familiarity with the Earth immortal realm, but the great Tao has long been damaged. Even if I imitated the environment of the Earth immortal realm and set up this grotto heaven world, this is actually reconstructed from the world fragments of the soaring jade dragon of the 36 heavens? Immortal Emperor Songhai saw that the 7 stars sword spirit had called out the name of the soaring jade dragon of the soaring jade dragon and sensed a noble and graceful immortal Tao aura from it. He immediately asked cautiously, "May I know who you are, me? I'm just a small sword spirit. As for my real name, immortal Tao cultivators from 100,000 years ago should have heard of it. I'm the 7 stars demon refining sword." 7 stars demon refining sword? Immortal Emperor Songhai was slightly taken aback. The expressions of the other immortal monarchs also changed when they heard this name. 7 stars demon refining sword. Could it be the Grand Supreme Saint? Immortal Emperor Songhai's attitude immediately changed, and his tone became slightly more cautious. "I did cultivate with the Grand Supreme Master back then," the 7 stars sword spirit said lightly. "So it's Senior 7 stars who has graced us with your presence." Immortal Emperor Songhai bowed slightly in a rather formal manner. At the same time, he sent out a message, apparently seeking confirmation from the cultivators of the immortal Tao civilization who had survived 100,000 years ago. "Originally, I had already reached the point where my spirituality was dissipating, and it wouldn't be long before I naturally fell into an eternal slumber and returned to nothingness. However, I was still dragged here by this young man, Xing Hui. It can be considered as selling my old face on behalf of him and proving his identity. Indeed, you shouldn't be enemies. On the contrary, I think you should be friends. Of course, with Senior Xing Hui as a guarantor, we naturally trust His Excellency Xing Hui." Immortal Emperor Songhai waved his hand, and the Grand Unity Immortals who had faintly formed a formation around Xing Hui quickly retreated to express their attitude. "Apologies for offending you earlier. It's fine. I anticipated that there might be a misunderstanding between us, so I specially invited Senior 7 stars out. I wonder if you can take me to see Earth now. In other words, the people of the Source World. Among those people are my relatives and friends, and I really want to know how they're doing now." Xing Hui inquired. Of course. Don't worry, Sir Ching Su. We've made appropriate arrangements for the people of the origin world. Those with talent have directly joined the various sects and clans, while those with less talent have been able to live a peaceful and happy life. Who knows how many times better they'll be treated than the mortals under our jurisdiction. I'll make the arrangements right now and have someone take you there personally. Immortal Emperor Songhai instructed the Grand Unity Immortals and True Immortals around him. At this moment, a figure with a tremendous aura swiftly broke through the air, attracting the attention of many people. When this aura descended, it quickly transformed into a middle-aged man. Judging from his aura, he was actually a Zenith Heaven immortal expert. Evidently, the place Xing Hui was most likely the core area of the immortal Tao civilization, which was why so many Zenith Heaven immortals were personally overseeing it. After the middle-aged Zenith Heaven immortal landed, his gaze immediately fell on the 7 stars sword spirit. After confirming his identity, he hurriedly stepped forward and cried out in pleasant surprise, 7 stars, it's really you." I was still in disbelief when I heard Immortal Emperor Songhai's message. I didn't expect you to still be alive, old fellow. You're the purple gold red gourd? Old fellow, you're actually still alive? Ha ha ha, old fellow, you're still alive, so how can I be the first to leave? The middle-aged man was overjoyed when he saw that the 7 Stars Sword Spirit recognized him. I've already transformed, and I'm called the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor. Then, he stared at the 7 Stars Sword Spirit and asked, Old fellow, how did you end up like this? Although I've ended up like this, I'm still much better than the others. The 8 trigrams cauldron is broken, the golden veil rope is broken, and the diamond chakram is destroyed. The 2 of us are already lucky to be able to survive. Yes, it's fortunate to be able to survive. The Purple Gold Immortal Emperor sighed emotionally. The middle-aged man who called himself the Purple Gold Celestial Emperor sighed emotionally. He seemed to have thought of the destructive battle back then. His expression was filled with respect and admiration. Immortal Emperor Songhai, the Void Transformation Immortal Duke, and the others listened to the 2 of them reminiscing, but they did not dare to disturb them. Although Immortal Emperor Songhai was an immortal emperor, he was obviously a newly promoted immortal emperor in recent years. Before that destructive battle, he was at most a Tai immortal or even a genuine immortal. Compared to the sword spirit of 7 stars who followed the Grand Supreme Saint, his background was much worse. Even though the sword spirit of 7 stars was obviously at the end of its tether and was about to dissipate, he still dared not underestimate him and had to treat him as a junior. All right, if you want me to vouch for you, I've already vouched for you. You can go and busy yourself with your matters. I reckon that you can't wait to see the 2 of us reminiscing about the old days. The 7 Stars Sword Spirit and the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor chatted for a while before they noticed that Xing Hui looked a little uneasy. Immortal Emperor Songhai turned to the Void Transformation Immortal Duke and said, Void Transformation, you're in charge of the people in the Source World. You'll bring this Sir there. You must try your best to satisfy Sir Xing Hui's request, understand? Don't worry, Immortal Emperor. I know. The Void Transformation Immortal Duke responded and gestured to Xing Hui with his hand. Sir Xing Hui, please follow us. Thank you, Immortal Duke. Xing Hui greeted the 7 Stars Sword Spirit at the same time. Soon, he followed the Void Transformation Immortal Duke to the world of Earth, where the living beings of the Source World were settled. This person is… This person gives me a strange feeling. The Purple Gold Immortal Emperor had lived for countless years. His experience was clearly not something the newly promoted Immortal Emperor Songhai could compare to. He sized up Xing Hui for a moment and quickly felt that something was amiss. It's more than strange. The 7 Stars Sword Spirit looked at Xing Hui's departing figure and sighed. After a while, he asked again, Who's the one in charge here? It's the disciple of the Prime Clear Saint, the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. The Purple Gold Immortal Emperor said in a deep voice. Just the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures alone? The 7 Stars Sword Spirit was in disbelief. The only one who can be called a great divine ability is the Heavenly Lord. The 7 Stars Sword Spirit was speechless for a long time. Although he had guessed that the immortal Tao civilization would suffer heavy losses, he had not expected it to be to such an extent. The great divine ability of the entire immortal Tao civilization, there was only one person left. However, apart from the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures, it seems that someone has intermittently detected the traces of an important figure. Who is it? A certain quasi-saint or a true saint? The 7 Stars Sword Spirit hurriedly asked. The Purple Gold Celestial Emperor shook his head. We don't know. We only sensed his traces, but we didn't find his true body. He has never contacted us before. However, based on the traces he left behind, he might be the Qingping Sword Spirit. The Qingping Sword Spirit? Yes, with the characteristics of the Qingping Sword Spirit. he'll definitely be one of the heavenly lords and quasi-saints who have the highest chance of surviving. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to contact him until now. He seems to be blocked by some kind of power and can't contact us. Can't contact him. The Seven Stars Sword Spirit felt a little regretful. However, even if they could contact the Qingping Sword Spirit, it would not be of much use. After all, their enemies were too strong. Back then, they had relied on the power of the primitive world to defeat those terrifying opponents, let alone now that even the heavenly Tao had been shattered. The Seven Stars Sword Spirit's expression dimmed for a moment. Then, he glanced at the vast sea immortal emperor and seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly asked, "The Jade Dragon's soaring victory is in your hands. If I'm not wrong, the exalted heaven should also be in your hands, right?" "That's right, the exalted heaven is indeed in our hands. However, the exalted heaven has long been damaged, and the power it can transform is less than 1/10,000th of its peak. It's still here. That's the greatest blessing." There was faint joy on the Seven-Star Sword Spirit's face. In the end, he glanced at Qing Su, who had vanished with the immortal Lord of Void Forming, and said sternly, "I want to see the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. There's something I want to discuss with the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. This matter might be related to the hope and opportunity of our civilization's revival. It's related to the hope and opportunity of our immortal Tao civilization's revival?" The purple-gold immortal emperor's expression turned serious as well. Based on his understanding of the Seven Stars Sword Spirit, he knew the Seven Stars Sword Spirit would not joke about such an important matter. He said without hesitation, "I'll arrange it for you right away. I've updated more than 10,000 words today. Everyone, can you log on to your Qidian account and vote for me?" Chapter 871. This is the territory where the people of the Source World currently live. The Void Immortal Monarch flew with Tsing Hui for a while before finally stopping at a land with mountains, rivers, and grasslands that was very similar to Earth's. In terms of area, the Jade Dragon Soaring Heaven was bigger than the Divine Wilderness Great World, the True Sun Great World, and the Tai Hua Great World. However, as the Jade Dragon Soaring Heaven had been mostly destroyed, it was equivalent to a remnant. In terms of total area, it was only 100 million kilometers in diameter, which was smaller than the Divine Wilderness Great World, not to mention the True Sun Great World, the Tai Hua Great World, and the Jade Capital Great World. Of course, this was only the surface area of the Jade Dragon Soaring Heaven. In fact, the headquarters of the immortal Tao civilization was formed by the unification of a large number of worlds. These worlds had remnants of the 36 heavens, but most of them were grotto heaven worlds. Although these grotto heaven worlds were only 1 to 1 million kilometers in size, there were many of them. Therefore, in terms of level of development, the headquarters of the immortal Tao civilization was not inferior to a powerful level 21 civilization. Earth was not divided into level 10 worlds, but because they were from the source world, they were still treated specially. The population of Earth, which was still less than 10 billion even after 100 years of development, occupied a total of 10 billion square kilometers, which was 20 times the area of Earth. 10 times the area, evenly distributed, and with reasonable utilization, all living beings on Earth, which currently had a total population of about 6 billion, had enough space. Other than those clans that spontaneously gathered together, most people had their own private courtyards, manors, or cave abode. In addition, as the people of Earth were included in the immortal Tao civilization, and with the support of the immortal Tao civilization, Earth had completed the transformation from a technological civilization to an immortal Tao civilization in a short 100 years. Currently, the instruments that shuttled through the living space of Earth were no longer spaceships or vehicles, but flying swords and various flying artifacts. Tsing Hui stood outside this territory and looked up. He could clearly feel the huge transformation of Earth's civilization. With the personal support of true immortals who could create worlds with a single thought and Tai immortals who were at the peak of the primal chaos realm, the civilization of Earth had risen from level 10 to level 15 in just 100 years. In other words, in terms of cultivation level, the present Earth was not inferior to the divine wilderness Great World before the Qing Su transmigrated. No, it was even higher than the divine wilderness Great World. After all, before Tsing Hui had arrived at the divine wilderness Great World, there were only 3 supreme experts at the profound void realm. But now, among the 6 billion people on Earth, there were 4 at the shattering void realm, dozens at the profound void realm, and hundreds at the grand domain realm. Practitioners at the golden core realm accounted for 1% of the total population, which amounted to 20 million. Moreover, the immortal Tao civilization was proficient in extending one's lifespan, so the lifespan of Golden Core realm practitioners was much longer than that of the Master of Chaos lineage. At 9,000 years old, they were only a step away from 10,000 years of lifespan. With all kinds of benefits, the people of Earth civilization did not reject the idea of joining the immortal Tao civilization. Instead, they felt proud to be part of the immortal Tao civilization. Hundreds of millions of people walked out of the settlements that the immortal Tao civilization had arranged for them and joined sects that were willing to accept them, completely becoming a part of the immortal Tao civilization. Don't worry, immortal Tsing Hui. After all, these people came from the source world. When the Lord of Heaven learned of this, he personally ordered Immortal Emperor Songhai to settle them down. In the end, Immortal Emperor Songhai handed this task to me. I didn't disappoint Immortal Emperor Songhai and the Lord of Heaven's expectations. These years, I've done my best to help your people. In 100 years, they've made significant progress and entered the level 15 civilization level. Immortal Emperor Songhai smiled. Tsing Hui could not help but feel a little helpless when he heard this. According to Immortal Emperor Songhai, he had single-handedly led Earth's civilization from level 10 to level 15. Tsing Hui should be thanking him, but he, who truly understood the immortal Tao civilization's current situation, did not want Earth's civilization to have too much to do with the immortal Tao civilization. After all, the immortal Tao civilization was the target of attacks from 3 great existences: the Lord of Chaos, the Lord of Time, and the Lord of Gods. Currently, the cultivators of the immortal Tao civilization were constantly sowing discord, causing the experts under the great existences to turn a blind eye to their existence. However, once the experts under the great existences began to capture the immortal Tao civilization with all their might, how long could the immortal Tao civilization last? However, he naturally could not say these words in front of Immortal Emperor Songhai and the others. Many thanks, Immortal Emperor Songhai. I was delayed for 100 years because of some matters. If it weren't for you bringing them here in time and transforming Earth's civilization into a cultivation civilization, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to see many of my family and friends again. Sword Sovereign Tsing Hui, you're too kind. Since I've brought the people of the Source World to our immortal Tao civilization, I naturally have to take responsibility for their survival. Tsing Hui nodded. When Tsing Hui and Immortal Emperor Songhai appeared in this territory, the experts of the immortal Tao civilization, who specialized in teaching Earth's civilization, sensed their presence. Soon, 3 men equivalent to the unrivaled realm hurried over and bowed respectfully. Greetings, Immortal Emperor Songhai. Oh, are the 3 of you on duty today? Are the people of the Source World all right? No, the people of the Source World are extremely enthusiastic and curious about our immortal Tao civilization. Currently, most of them are wholeheartedly focused on cultivating in seclusion. In addition, with the resources you've provided, they don't have to worry about resources, much less incite unnecessary hatred and killing. The one with the highest cultivation among the 3 responded respectfully. He then added, however, due to the overly comfortable environment, many people's mental cultivation can no longer keep up. If this problem isn't resolved as soon as possible, it'll be difficult for their civilization level to rise again. Then activate the demon refinement illusory realm and let them experience reincarnation again and again in the illusory realm. They'll continuously defeat their inner demons and evil thoughts and refine their souls. Immortal Emperor Songhai said. Demon refinement illusory realm? The cost of activating the demon refinement illusory realm is not small. Every year, even if it's only 10,000 people, the amount of resources spent is enough to nurture an earthly immortal. It's alright, activate it. After the Void Celestial Duke finished speaking, he turned to Tsing Hui and said, "This is Tsing Hui Celestial Duke. He's an honored guest of the Vast Sea Celestial Emperor and the Purple Gold Celestial Emperor. He should have some questions for all of you, so please don't neglect him." The Vast Sea Celestial Emperor and the Purple Gold Celestial Emperor's reputations were clearly terrifying. The three Void Celestials, who were equivalent to reigning realm Celestials, quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, Celestial Duke. If there's anything you need, please let us know. I have something to ask the three of you. I'm originally from the Source World, but by chance I went to the outside world to train. When I returned, the people from the Source World had already been transferred here. I'd like to ask all of you to help me look for someone." Look for someone. The Void Celestials were slightly taken aback. With the strength of a Grand Unity Celestial Duke's divine thought, could he not just scan the area to look for someone? Was there a need for them to appear? The Void Celestial Duke at the side knew Tsing Hui's background, so he immediately said, "I can help you with this." "Who are you looking for, Celestial Duke?" Tsing Hui. "My biological father. Thank you." As Tsing Hui spoke, he sent Qing Yuming's image to the Void Celestial Duke with his consciousness. After receiving Tsing Hui's message, the Void Celestial Duke quickly spread out his divine thought. Like the spring wind and rain, it silently permeated the mountains and rivers within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Soon, he found the information Tsing Hui had given him and sent the location back to Tsing Hui with his divine thought. "I found him. He's here. Celestial Duke Tsing Hui, shall we go over now?" "Thank you, Void Celestial Duke. We'll go over now." Tsing Hui was pleasantly surprised. At the same time, he was envious of the Void Celestial Duke's meticulous use of divine thought. In terms of the strength of his spiritual power, it was definitely not inferior to the Void Celestial Duke's. With a burst of his spiritual power, it would not be difficult for him to raise an area of 100,000 kilometers to the ground. However, to control his divine thoughts so precisely like the Void Celestial Duke and determine if they were the target he was looking for, this ability was far beyond his imagination. However, 100,000 kilometers was not the limit of a primal Chaos Realm Supreme's spiritual power range. If he only wanted to find one or two targets, he did not need to accurately determine the location of Ant. It should not be difficult, right? With the foundation of the primal Chaos Realm, could he learn the Void Celestial Duke's method of using divine thought and use it to find Jiang Ningji? At the thought of this, Tsing Hui did not care about being presumptuous and hurriedly asked, "I wonder if the Void Celestial Duke can teach me this divine thought-searching method?" "Of course, but..." The Void Celestial Duke clearly understood that Tsing Hui was from the Master of Chaos's faction, so he said tactfully, "This divine thought-searching method is built on the foundation of divine thought and divine sense cultivation. Before using this method, you need to first refine your spirit into divine thought, and then refine your divine thought into divine sense. Only then will you be able to instantly refine your spirit into divine thought and then refine your divine thought into divine sense. Only then will you be able to instantly determine the aura of everyone within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. If Immortal Lord Tsing Hui wants to cultivate I'm afraid it'll take some time. If Immortal Lord Tsing-Hui needs any help, I'm very willing to help. Tsing-Hui pondered for a moment, but in the end, he gave up on this idea. According to the Void Celestial Duke, refining one's spirit into divine thought and then transforming it into divine sense was obviously not an easy task. He immediately said, I would like to ask Immortal Lord to help me find another person. This is a small matter. The Void Celestial Duke smiled. Tsing-Hui immediately sent Jiang Ningxi's image to the Void Celestial Duke. The Void Celestial Duke once again spread out his divine thought to search within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. However, a moment later, he frowned and turned to Tsing-Hui. He said regretfully, Immortal Lord Tsing-Hui, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I didn't find the person you're looking for. You didn't find her? Tsing-Hui held his breath when he heard this. Even though he did not find Jiang Ningxi the last time he came to Earth, he was more or less prepared. However, when he heard the Void Celestial Duke say it personally, he still felt as if a huge rock was pressing down on his heart. It was so heavy that he almost could not breathe. Senior Sister Jiang, was she really dead? Chapter 872. Seeing this, the void-forming immortal monarch understood that the person Qing Su was looking for was extremely important. If such a person really existed and was located in the origin world, then they would have nothing to worry about if they could completely pull this chess piece that had infiltrated the territory of the Master of Chaos into their side. He thought for a moment and said, Tsing-Hui Immortal Monarch, it's very difficult to find someone based on their appearance. Do you remember her aura ripples? It would be best if she had spiritual ripples. After all, many people's appearances can change in a myriad of ways. Even aura ripples and spiritual ripples can be disguised and altered. However, the average cultivation level of the people in the source world is still quite far from being able to alter spiritual ripples. There are only a few who can change their aura, so if you can provide us with her aura and spiritual ripples, we might be able to find her more accurately. Aura, spiritual ripples. When Tsing-Hui and Jiang Ningxi had parted ways, he had only been immortal. How could he possibly capture her aura and spiritual ripples? If her aura and spiritual ripples don't exist, then I'm sorry, the void-transforming immortal monarch said helplessly. I can only tell them to keep an eye out for any information related to this fairy. If they happen to run into her, I'll have someone inform you. Thank you, Tsing-Hui said. He knew that the void-transforming immortal monarch was only doing his best and leaving the rest to fate. It's our fault for not being able to help you, Tsing-Hui Immortal Monarch. The void-transforming immortal monarch transmitted Jiang Ningxi's image to the three void-transforming immortals. Bai Fang, Yiyuan, Ning Shuang, keep an eye out for this woman. If there's any news, I'll allow you to report to me directly. The three void-transforming immortals hurriedly lowered their heads respectfully. Understood, we'll use all our strength to find this fairy. In the cultivation system of the Master of Primal Chaos, void-transforming immortals were only on par with reigning immortals. How could reigning immortals compare to primal chaos immortals? Many unhindered realm experts might not even have the chance to speak to a primal chaos supremacy in their entire life. Even though there was no such thing as a hollow immortal not being qualified to talk to a grand unity immortal in the immortal civilization, it was still not easy for a hollow immortal to catch the eye of a grand unity immortal lord. Now that the void transformation immortal lord had specifically given the mission to the three of them, they immediately remembered it in their hearts. It seemed like they would spend the next few hundred years searching for Jiang Ningxi. When the void transformation immortal duke gave the three pseudo-immortals their missions, they arrived at a quaint courtyard. The courtyard was about 6,000 square meters, which was not small. There was also a 13-level array outside. Even though the most powerful experts in Earth civilization had reached the level of shattering vacuum, Most people's average level was still limited to Saint Realm. Golden Core Realm experts could be considered elites in society. Under such circumstances, Qing Yuming's family could set up a 13-level array, which showed how extraordinary they were. As Tsing Hui's group arrived, some of the local cultivators in the courtyard who seemed to be attached to Qing Yuming's family immediately sensed something and quickly came forward. When they saw the markings on the 3 pseudo-immortals, they were shocked. A few of them immediately came forward to greet the pseudo-immortals, while another ran into the courtyard to report to the owner, Qing Yuming. Soon, as the head of the family, Qing Yuming and his wife, Haitang, had left the courtyard. After leaving the courtyard, Qing Yuming immediately saw Tsing Hui standing in the void with the 3 pseudo-immortals. He could not help but be pleasantly surprised. However, in front of the Bai Feng, Yi Yuan, Ning Shuang, and the others, he took the initiative to bow to them first. Greetings, immortal envoys. I didn't know that you'd come, so I didn't welcome you. Please forgive me. The Bai Feng, Yi Yuan, and Ning Shuang had already learned from the Void Transformation Immortal Duke that the man in front of them, who was equivalent to a level 11 Divine Power Realm expert, was the father of Immortal Duke Tsing Hui, who was on the same level as the Void Transformation Immortal Duke. Naturally, they did not dare to accept his bow and quickly stepped aside. We came here mainly to accompany Immortal Duke Tsing Hui. We can't accept your bow, fellow Daoist Yuming. Immortal Duke Tsing Hui? Qing Yuming and Madame Haitang, who came out of the courtyard, could not help but widen their eyes at the same time when they heard how the Bai Feng addressed Tsing Hui. Having stepped into the immortal Dao civilization, they knew very well what an immortal duke meant to them. In the immortal Dao civilization, cultivators were divided into 4 major stages: Qi refinement, soul formation, void return, and immortal ascension. The 9th level of Qi refinement corresponded to the mortal realm and the immortal realm. The 6th level of soul formation corresponded to the saint realm. The 1st to 3rd levels of the divine realm corresponded to the 3 levels of void return, and the divine true body was classified as the immortal ascension stage. Those who cultivated the divine true body were called immortal bodies by the immortal Dao civilization's cultivators. They were called earth immortals or half-immortals. Above that were pseudo-immortals. Those who had a celestial kingdom were true immortals. Above that were the Grand Unity Immortal Duke, who had a profound great Tao, and the immortal and indestructible Origin Immortal Emperor. Currently, the entire Earth's cultivator civilization was improving under the guidance of several pseudo-immortal envoys and many Earth immortal envoys. However, the most powerful cultivators were only level 3 void return. To them, Grand Unity Immortal Duke was a supreme existence. Tsing Hui, you're a Grand Unity Immortal Duke? This is. Qing Yuming's eyes were filled with disbelief. Madame Haitang also lowered her head. She seemed to be unable to open her eyes because of the dazzling halo above Tsing Hui's head. It's just a coincidence, Tsing Hui said with a smile. Seeing that his family was fine and living well, his mood naturally became cheerful. Meanwhile, the pseudo-immortal Duke said very consciously, "We won't disturb Tsing Hui Immortal Duke and his son any longer. We'll take our leave first. Also, we've been ordered by Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai to open up an immortal residence on Liupa Island 80,000 kilometers away. We'll give the 3,000 kilometers of Liupa Island to Immortal Duke Tsing Hui. In 3 to 5 days, Immortal Duke Tsing Hui and his family can move to Liupa Island." "Thank you, Pseudo-Immortal Duke. It's my duty. This is my communication jade talisman. If there's anything, Immortal Duke Tsing Hui can contact me directly." The pseudo-immortal Duke handed over his communication jade talisman to Tsing Hui. Then, he politely said something and left with the Bai Feng and the other 2. The few of them might not feel much when they were Tsing Hui, but to Qing Yuming and the others, it naturally brought them great pressure at all times. "That person seems to be the legendary pseudo-immortal Duke, right?" Qing Yuming looked at the pseudo-immortal Duke, who left with Yuan, Bai Fang, and Ning Shuang with a trace of disbelief in his eyes. It's true. That's really the pseudo-immortal Duke. He's the savior who led our Earth's civilization out of the nightmare and ushered in a new era, the pseudo-immortal Duke. Madame Haitang looked at the departing figure of the pseudo-immortal Duke in disbelief. However, thinking back to how the pseudo-immortal Duke addressed Xing Hui, she felt that she could understand it. Xing Hui, but he was an immortal Duke. What was wrong with an immortal Duke being friends with a pseudo-immortal Duke? Even if that immortal Duke was like a living true God to all the living beings of the Earth civilization, he was a great life that replaced God and Allah. Madame Haitang lowered her head when she thought of Xing Hui's identity as an immortal Duke. Fortunately, it was fortunate that she and Qing Yuming had always been in love with each other over the years, and their family relationship was rather harmonious as well. She did not take advantage of her daughter's rise to power and use her family background to intimidate others like she did on Earth back then after when Xian Xuxian took her in as a disciple. Otherwise, with Qing Su's return today, she would have embarrassed the entire Hai family like she did back then. Xing Hui. What's going on? Why did the great pseudo-immortal Duke call you an immortal Duke? Qing Yuming could not help but ask. It's what you understand, Xing Hui said. But after we joined the immortal Tao civilization and received the teachings of the great figures and immortals, we deduced that you should only be a cultivator at the peak of the soul transformation stage, at most, the void return stage. The void return stage. It's not just a little bit to become a grand unity immortal Duke, right? It's not easy to explain. I can only say that it's a personal opportunity. You can just think of it as me receiving the inheritance of an ancient golden immortal. Xing Hui said. Then, he asked again, nothing bad happened in the past 100 years, right? No. Qing Yuming shook his head. How could anything happen? Although these immortal envoys confiscated the planet we were on, and it's said that they're using it for research, they've taken care of us very well. Not only have they provided us with a good living environment and endless resources, but they've also sent a large number of immortal envoys to guide us in our cultivation. Currently, everyone in the entire Earth civilization has benefited from these benefits, especially the members of our Huaxia nation. They're even more impressive. The 3 third-tier void return mighty figures are all from our Huaxia. Toward the end, Qing Yuming, who had been a public official, could not help but raise his voice as a sense of national pride welled up in him. The people of the immortal Tao civilization didn't do anything bad to the Earth civilization, right? Of course not, Qing Yuming shook his head. After a moment, he added, of course, when we first joined the big family of the immortal Tao civilization, many politicians wanted to stir up trouble. However, the immortal envoys of the immortal Tao civilization all mastered incredible immortal techniques and crushed their little schemes as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. They even ruthlessly killed a group of people. However, I applauded and cheered for this matter. All in all, the benefits of our people joining the immortal Tao civilization clearly outweigh the disadvantages. Xing Hui nodded. Since the immortal Tao civilization did not make things difficult for the people of the Earth civilization, Xing Hui felt much more at ease. However, he immediately thought of the Earth that the immortal Tao civilization's immortal lords and immortal emperors had taken away for research. Or rather, source world. Could these people have deduced that the creation divine jade was with him from the divine tree boundary in the source world? There was no doubt that the creation divine jade was of great value to the immortal Tao civilization. If the immortal Tao civilization's people tried to take it away from him, how should he deal with this? For a moment, while reuniting with his family, he began to consider the possible escape routes he might need to prepare. Chapter 873. Xing Hui reunited with his family and spent a lot of time and energy nursing Qin Yuming's body so that he could advance to the 12th level as soon as possible, which was equivalent to the divine true body stage. Meanwhile, an airship was riding the wind and breaking the waves toward the manor millions of kilometers away from the source world's territory. The airship was not big and could only carry 20 to 30 passengers. There were only 6 passengers on the airship at the moment. Among the 6 passengers, there were 3 men and 3 women, and they were evenly distributed. The 3 men all had extraordinary appearances and elegant demeanors. As for the 3 women, they were either gentle and charming, or valiant and formidable. They could be called a golden couple, a celestial beauty. Wei is your hometown in front of us? I heard that you all came from the source world. We're very curious about the mysterious and legendary source world. The leader of the group led the group. Among the 6 people, the man in the lead looked at the woman beside him who was wearing a sky blue dress. Even though it wasn't an ancient costume, it was still filled with a beautiful and elegant aura. If Qin Yuming, Haitang, and the others were here, they would be able to recognize at first glance that this woman was their precious daughter, Hai Wire. Their other daughter, Qin Yusin, was with Hai Wire. Compared to when they had left home, both Hai Wire and Qin Yusin had undergone tremendous changes, be it in terms of temperament or appearance. In particular, their cultivations had surpassed their parents in all aspects, reaching the void transformation stage and the domain stage. The man who was talking to them was a void-shattering stage man. He was also the one with the highest cultivation among them. Fairy Wenxian's sect could be called a large force locally, but it was just an ordinary sect in the entire immortal Dao civilization. Although there were true immortals in the sect, the elders who were in charge were still false immortals like Wenxian. Below that, earth immortals who had cultivated the divine true body could be called high-ranking deacons. For someone like this man, who had void-shattering stage cultivation, even if he could not be called the top figure among the true disciples, he was certainly one of the best. The source world is not as good as you think. Although we were born in the source world, we did not feel that it was any different from other backward worlds in the past thousands or tens of thousands of years. Haveril said gracefully as she stroked her hair. There wasn't much difference in the past, but now the advantages of the source world have become apparent. Not to mention the source world itself, just you people from the source world have received extraordinary attention. It is said that several immortal emperors have been paying attention to your movements at all times. In addition, there is an immortal monarch who is in charge of the development of your race. All kinds of resources are available to you at will. It is really the envy of others. Another man in the group, who was at the profound void stage, said with a smile. That's right, the supply of resources in the source world is indeed enviable. Furthermore, from what I know, Wei your clan originally belonged to a large clan in the first line of source. This is even more impressive. No wonder Wei was able to break through to the insightful emptiness stage in less than 100 years. The Foundation back then, speaking of the Foundation, Haveril could not help but think of Xing Hui in the past. However, the man who was nominally her elder brother had already vanished over a century ago. Now, they had also deduced that even though Qing Su could be regarded as a prodigy in the face of Earth civilization, possessing a supreme cultivation that allowed her to ignore regular vicious beasts, she was actually only at the peak of divine transformation at the very most. She was not even at her sister Qin Yusin's level, let alone standing shoulder to shoulder with her or even Taoist Changfeng. Thinking of how everyone on Earth worshipped her brother back then, Haveril could not help but feel a little amused. The peak of the divine transformation stage? Not to mention those immortal sects, even in the meteor sect where they were currently at, a peak of the divine transformation stage cultivation was not even qualified to become a true disciple of the meteor sect. At most, he could only be considered an inner disciple. This was also because she had speculated that Tsing Hui was at the peak of the divine transformation stage. If he was not at the peak of the divine transformation stage but an ordinary divine transformation stage cultivator, at the level of an outer disciple, the meteor sect could take in as many disciples of this level as they wanted. In some large-scale operations, they would at most play the role of cannon fodder. Thinking of this, Haverel shook her head and quickly banished those laughable thoughts from her mind. We're here. We're almost home. Our home should be up ahead. While Haverel was distracted, Qin Yusin became slightly happy. Is this your home? It doesn't seem to be the center of the source world's people. Bingley, who had a good relationship with Haverel, looked around and asked curiously, Haverel, wasn't your family a big family in the source world back then? Why didn't you live in the Source Mountain Range? The Source Mountain Range is the core of the source world's cultivators. I remember that there's a medium-sized immortal vein there. It was bestowed by the immortal emperor. The efficiency of cultivators cultivating there is more than 10 times faster than ordinary spirit veins. Ever since our Earth, our source world's federal government was disbanded and there were no external threats, my father and mother chose to live in seclusion in the mountains. Although my mother's family still has a lot of influence in the source world, my father has completely settled down. He no longer wants to fight for anything, so he chose to live here. My mother had no choice but to leave the Source Mountain Range with my father and live here. Haverel said, in the struggle for the Great Tao, if you don't advance, you'll fall behind. Uncle's way of thinking won't do. Haverel, when you go back this time, you have to have a good talk with your father. Your source world has such a unique resource. How can you not use it well? Even if you don't go to the Source Mountain Range to occupy a spirit origin, you should at least move to the Source Mountain Range, right? The quality of the medium-sized immortal vein in the Source Mountain Range is 1 or 2 grades higher than our meteor sex. In other words, cultivating there is 4 times faster than cultivating in our meteor sect. Dao Tianfeng said solemnly. The immortal Dao civilization relied heavily on Yuan Qi. Other than talent and resources, cultivation speed was directly linked to spirit veins and immortal veins. Ordinary spirit veins had twice the cultivation effect of ordinary spirit veins. Superior spirit veins were twice the cultivation effect of ordinary spirit veins. Superior spirit veins were twice the cultivation effect of ordinary spirit veins. Superior spirit veins were immortal veins, which were usually occupied by Tai immortals. As for superior immortal veins, they belonged to Zenith immortals. The meteor sect was a sect with a true immortal. They occupied a small supreme-grade spirit vein that could provide for 10,000 people on average. Among them, there were only 100 spirit origins. Compared to immortal veins that could provide for 1,000,000 people and 10,000 immortal origins, the meteor sect was naturally 1.5 grades lower. I'll talk to my father about this when I get back. Back then, because of Tsing Hui, due to certain reasons, our family and the higher-ups of the Source Mountain Range still have some friendship. If my father is willing to seek help from those people, they will more or less give our family some face. Even if they don't give us an immortal origin, it won't be a problem for us to move to the Source Mountain Range to live. That's for the best. Currently, your source world has the Immortal Emperor and the Grand Unity, Immortal Monarch personally taking care of you. Your path of cultivation will naturally be smooth. However, such a good thing won't last long. Once there's an unforeseen event, the peaceful situation of your source world will be disrupted. Who knows what will happen in the future? Therefore, the only way is to take advantage of the current peace in the world to reap as many benefits as possible and raise your cultivation to a higher realm as soon as possible. Only then will you have more hope of surviving in the future turmoil. Dao Tianfeng said earnestly and earnestly. Haverel nodded. She had entered the meteor sect and learned from some of the sect's ancient records that the world in front of her was far from as safe as they had imagined. Even an immortal civilization that was so powerful that it had a great divine ability expert overseeing it could only ensure its own survival in the cracks. No one knew when the entire immortal civilization would meet with a calamity. For the sake of her family, for the sake of her future safety, after returning this time, she had no choice but to be forceful and drag her family into the Source Mountain range. I'm back, I'm back. Accompanied by a series of cheers, the flying boat had already landed outside Qing Yuming's courtyard. Qing Yusin, who could not wait, immediately alighted on her sword and rushed into the courtyard. Father, Mother, I'm back. Xian is back. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're all back. Haitang, who heard the voice, immediately walked out from inside. Mother and daughter had been separated for many years. Naturally, they were overjoyed to see each other again. Mother. At this moment, Haverl led a group of people down the flying boat. After greeting Haitang, she turned to Qing Yuming, who had just walked out of the courtyard, and nodded slightly. Father. However, when her gaze fell on Tsing Hui, who had come out with Qing Yuming, she was slightly taken aback. Then, her beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. Not long ago, she had thought of this elder brother who had mysteriously disappeared for hundreds of years. She did not expect to be able to see him when she returned home this time. Was she hallucinating? Haitang, who was at the side, was afraid that Haverl's words would be disrespectful to this great figure who was on equal footing with the Void Transformation Celestial Duke. She hurriedly said, Haverl, hurry up and call you Big Brother Tsing Hui. Your Big Brother Tsing Hui is personally accompanied by the Great Void Transformation Celestial Duke. You can't be rude. Void Transformation Celestial Duke? Haverl, who was shocked for a moment, quickly regained her senses. After all, in her heart, Tsing Hui, who was only at the peak of the divine transformation stage, was not a big deal. There was no need for her to be careful around him like she was on Earth. After hearing her mother's words, she could not help but laugh. Mother, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't you know what kind of great figure a Void Transformation Celestial Duke is? A Celestial Duke. He's a Celestial Duke who can oversee a galaxy. Perhaps you know that a Celestial Duke is respected, but you probably don't know to what extent a Celestial Duke is respected, right? Let me tell you, in our Milky Way galaxy, there are hundreds of thousands of civilizations, but each Milky Way galaxy only has one true immortal, or even a false immortal, a great existence like the immortal monarch of the Void Transformation realm. The star areas he oversees usually have dozens, or even hundreds of Milky Way galaxies. Millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of civilizations have to completely obey the orders of the immortal monarch of the Void Transformation realm. Now you understand how great an existence like the immortal monarch of the Void Transformation realm is. Chapter 874. Wire, I'm telling the truth. Haitang immediately became anxious. She was afraid that her daughter would make the same mistake again. All right, Madam Haitang. We're all family. Why bother with such trivial matters? Tsing Hui said. At the same time, he turned to Haitang and said, These are your friends from your sect, right? Come in and have a seat. Taoist Changfeng nodded slightly in a reserved manner. At the same time, he turned to Haitang and said, Wire, this is my elder brother, Tsing Hui. Elder brother? Taoist Changfeng was slightly startled. Then, the smile on his face became much more cordial. So it's Taoist Tsing Hui. I'm Taoist Changfeng, a true disciple of the Meteor Sect's Hidden Dragon ranking. Greetings. You're a guest. Come in and have a seat. Tsing Hui didn't show any special expression. He only said this out of politeness. The woman named Bingley smiled and whispered to the other man, Our Meteor Sect is one of the largest sects near the Source World. Only the top 100 true disciples are qualified to be listed on the Hidden Dragon ranking. It's very important. However, it's obvious that Taoist Xing Hui doesn't even know what the hidden dragon ranking is. Although the people of the source world are blessed with natural resources, they've only been in our immortal Tao civilization for a little over 100 years. It's reasonable for them to have shallow knowledge. The man smiled faintly and transmitted his voice. At the same time, he said, however, since this Tsing Hui is junior sister Haitong's elder brother, we have to give her some face. Don't say such things again. That's right, Bingley said. She raised her head slightly and walked into the courtyard with a proud expression. After entering the door, Haitang carefully sensed the spirit qi in the surroundings. It was even worse than the meteor sect. She frowned and said, Father, Mother, if you cultivate in such a poor spirit qi environment, I'm afraid you'll fall behind others in the future. Why don't you go to the Source Mountain Range? I remember that when our Earth civilization had just merged with the immortal Tao civilization, Father, you were one of the top 100 experts of our Earth civilization. Qing Yuming waved his hand with a smile. The Origin Mountain Range is too noisy, and I'm not used to it. I feel quite comfortable here. As for our cultivation, we're currently under the protection of the immortal Tao civilization, and the Origin Mountain Range has a void immortal monarch personally watching over us. Even if we cultivate to the return to void stage, or even ascend to immortality, how useful can we be? It's better to take advantage of the fact that I'm still in good health and enjoy the rest of my life. Uncle Qing, you're wrong. We may live in the territory of the immortal Tao civilization and have true immortals, great immortal lords, and supreme immortal emperors above us, but that's not a reason for us to not think about improving ourselves. Our current situation isn't very good, and there are powerful enemies outside. Under these circumstances, every cultivator of the immortal Tao civilization should work hard and strive to ascend the immortal Tao as soon as possible, contributing our strength to the conquest of the immortal Tao. A man stepped forward and said in a deep voice. Qing Yuming glanced at the man who spoke and was startled. For a moment, he didn't know how to answer. Tsing Hui watched from the side and couldn't help but shake his head. Everyone has their own aspirations and can't be forced. Since my father has no intention of wandering on the path of cultivation, then let him be. Taoist Tsing Hui, you're wrong. Cultivation is a transformation of life. Even if a mortal cultivator cultivates the golden core, their lifespan won't exceed 10,000 years. However, if they can achieve the immortal Tao, they can easily stay in the world for 100,000 years. If they can become true immortals, then they'll truly live forever and be immortal. Don't you want to live with your family and friends forever? Instead, you want to see your family grow old a few thousand years later and endure the separation of life and death? Taoist Changfeng said calmly, in order to achieve the immortal Tao early, the external environment is of utmost importance. The Origin Mountain Range was bestowed by the immortal emperor with a medium-sized immortal vein. This kind of treatment is something that many first-rate sects don't have. Moreover, even if Uncle Qing doesn't think for himself, you should think for your children. Junior sisters Wei and Xin have a bright future ahead of them. If Uncle Qing can go around and move back to the Origin Mountain Range to enjoy the benefits of the immortal vein, I believe that Wei and Xin's cultivation will be smoother and they'll be able to break through to higher realms faster. The Origin Mountain Range, Qing Yuming couldn't help but frown when he thought of the people in the Origin Mountain Range who schemed and plotted against each other for the distribution of cave abodes. Back then, he was willing to lay down his life for the sake of the country and the people. However, with the disintegration of the federal government, he had lost his direction of advancement and had fallen into decadence. Now that a few decades had passed, he had gradually gotten used to this kind of life and liked the dullness in front of him. If he wanted to go to the Origin Mountain Range to fight for his own benefits like before, Father, just do as you wish. If you want to go to the Origin Mountain Range, we'll go. If you don't want to go, it's fine as long as we don't go. Tsing Hui could see that Qin Yiming was in a difficult position and said. After that, he glanced at Haveril and Qin Yusin. If father is worried about my two sisters, I'll ask the Void Transformation Immortal Duke to take care of them when the time comes. I might even be able to find some connections and have them become disciples of some immortal duke so that they can cultivate immortal art. Qin Yiming felt relieved when he heard Tsing Hui's words. His son was on equal footing with the Void Transformation Immortal Duke and was even called a Immortal Duke. There was no need for him to worry about such a small matter. When he thought of this, a smile appeared on Qin Yiming's face. Just as he was about to say something, the woman named Bingley couldn't help but burst into laughter, attracting everyone's attention. When Bingley realized she had lost her composure, she hurriedly said, I'm sorry. I just thought it was a little funny. That's why. I'm sorry, please continue. Don't mind me. Haveril, who was standing at the side, naturally knew what Bingley was laughing about. She felt her cheeks heating up. She hurriedly said to Tsing Hui in dissatisfaction, Tsing Hui, what are you talking about? A Void Transformation Immortal Duke is a great person. Why would he have the time and energy to spare on us? Before Haveril could finish speaking, a figure suddenly appeared. It was a man with an immortal aura. When he appeared, his voice rang out, Immortal Duke Tsing Hui, I'm sorry to disturb you. The Immortal Emperors Tsang Hai and Purple Gold Immortal Emperors have invited you to a banquet. Would it be possible for you to come to the Tsang Hai Immortal Palace, Immortal Duke Tsing Hui? Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai and Purple Gold Immortal Emperors? Haveril, who was speaking, stopped abruptly when she heard these two names. When she saw the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared, and whom she had seen on television more than once, her breathing stopped abruptly. Void Transformation Immortal Duke? It's the Void Transformation Immortal Duke's true body. Oh my God, the Void Transformation Immortal Duke's true body has appeared. Moreover, he's right beside us. Wait, what did the Void Transformation Immortal Duke say? The disciples from the Meteor sect were shocked for a moment. When they finally understood the meaning behind the Void Transformation Immortal Duke's words, their voices came to an abrupt halt. Immortal Emperor Tsang Hai and Purple Gold Immortal Emperors? Even though Qing Su had no idea why the two Immortal Emperors had summoned him, he was still within the territory of the Immortal Civilization after all, so he could not just ignore the Immortal Emperor's summons. He immediately replied, All right, let's go right now. Immortal Duke Tsing Hui, please come with me. The Void Transformation Immortal Duke said before he took a step forward. Tsing Hui looked at Qin Yiming and said, I'll make a move first. I'll come back and discuss your plans with you, father. Hurry up and go. Immortal Emperor. That's the legendary Supreme Immortal Emperor. Qin Yiming forced himself to calm down. However, his voice still trembled slightly when he mentioned the Immortal Emperor. Tsing Hui nodded. In a flash, he had already left with the Void Transformation Immortal Duke. His speed was so fast that no one, including Dao Changfeng, the true disciple of the Meteor sect who was at the void-shattering stage, noticed him. Quite a while after the void-forming Immortal Lord and Qing Su left, Haveril, Daoist Changfeng, and the others gradually recovered from their shock. They could not help but shiver when they thought about what they had done. This Tsing Hui. How did he? Madame Haitang looked at Haveril with a hint of resentment in her eyes. I told you that Tsing Hui was chatting happily with the Void Transformation Immortal Duke when he arrived. But you didn't tell me that he's a Immortal Duke. Haveril had a bitter expression on her face. It's hard for us to believe this. Qin Yiming could hear the worry in Haveril's voice and said, No matter what, he's still your brother. He won't be angry at you over such a small matter. Don't worry about this. As long as the two of you stay united and love each other, I believe it won't be long before Tsing Hui accepts you. Haveril heaved a sigh of relief when she heard Qin Yiming's words. The more he learned about the immortal Dao civilization, the more he understood how important an immortal monarch was. Just as she had explained on behalf of her mother, an immortal monarch could decide the fate of thousands of civilizations. This was not just empty talk. Immortal Duke. Immortal Duke. My brother is a grand unity celestial Duke. This is amazing. Qing Yuxian, who was at the side, finally regained her senses. She could not help but cry out in joy. With a grand unity celestial Duke as our helper, let's see who dares to bully us in the meteor sect. Immortal Duke. Junior Sister Havril, there's actually a grand unity celestial Duke in your family. Dao Changfeng smiled wryly. Initially, he was in love with High Wire and wanted to meet her parent. However, after learning that there was a Supreme Unity Celestial Duke in High Wire's family, he knew he would never be able to match up to High Wire in this lifetime. Bingley and the others, who were chatting happily with Havril not long ago, had a change in attitude as well. Their eyes were filled with reverence when they looked at the sisters. They already understood that from this moment onwards, the lives of Havril and her sister would definitely undergo a huge change. They would no longer be in the same world as them. This was the power of a Grand Unity Celestial Duke. Even if the Grand Unity Celestial Duke did not say anything, this change would definitely appear in the following days. Havril and Qing Yuxian, who were about the same level as them a second ago, would become gods. Chapter 875. Immortal Lord Xing Hui, please. The two immortal emperors, Vast Sea and Purple Gold, as well as 7-Star Senior, are in this palace. The immortal lord led Xing Hui into a palace that looked like a gourd that had been magnified tens of thousands of times. Xing Hui looked at the huge gourd and the purple gold immortal emperor's title. He had a vague idea of what was going on, but with a thought, he quickly stepped into the palace. There were already many experts present in the palace. Aside from the Vast Sea Immortal Emperor, the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor, and the 7-Star Sword Spirit, there were also more than a dozen Peak Grand Luo Immortals present. In particular, there was a slightly plump old man sitting at the head of the table. His aura was unfathomable. When Xing Hui looked at him, it was as if he had seen the true essence of the world, the embodiment of all things. Even the parts that were revealed were enough to inspire Xing Hui. If these inspirations were to appear in the hands of a world creation expert, they would be able to break through to the primal chaos realm within a few decades and become a supreme overlord overseeing a region. This is a great Tao master who transformed his body into Tao. My body is my Tao. Xing Hui's heart trembled violently. They were both first-level Tao experts, but his Tao was so weak that it wasn't even worth mentioning. Even if he used the special characteristics of his great Tao, he could at most escape from a sovereign who had cultivated the origin sacred body. He was still far from being able to contend against a sovereign, but this man in front of him, they were both Taos, but once he truly activated the power of the great Tao in his body, his might would definitely be as vast as an abyss, and he would be able to easily defeat existences at the level of a ruler. There seems to be only one great Tao master in the immortal Tao civilization who transformed his body into Tao. The heavenly lord of myriad treasures? Xing Hui immediately recognized the man in front of him. Didn't they say that only the Vast Sea Immortal Emperor, the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor, and the 7-Star Sword Spirit had summoned him? Why were there so many immortal emperors now? Even the heavenly lord of myriad treasures had appeared here? Could it be they had studied Earth and learned about the existence of the Fortune Divine Jade in the Divine Trees Barrier? Your Excellency Xing Hui, right? You don't have to be nervous. The Lord of Myriad Treasures sensed the subtle changes in Xing Hui's emotions and instantly guessed what he was thinking. He couldn't help but smile. Don't worry, we have no intention of harming you. Greetings, Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures. Xing Hui pondered for a moment. Then, he stepped forward and bowed as a junior. Little fellow, you don't have to think too much about it. Perhaps you have a big secret from the source world, and that big secret is most likely that supreme treasure. However, after a few days of discussion, we've already given up on that supreme treasure. Otherwise, do you think we would have specially sent someone to invite you over? I'm afraid he'll capture you and interrogate you about the whereabouts of that supreme treasure. At this moment, the seven-star sword spirit spoke. His expression was rather amiable. When Tsing Hui heard the seven-star sword spirit's words, he hesitated for a moment before nodding slightly. Just as the seven-star sword spirit had said, if they really intended to harm him, there was no need for so many empty words. They could have just captured him and interrogated him. He might be able to escape unscathed from the encirclement of several Grand Luo Celestials. Even if there were more than 10 Grand Luo Celestials, he was still confident he could escape. However, if he were to face a great divine ability like the Lord of Myriad Treasures, there was nothing he could do. The difference in energy level between the two was too great. We have more or less guessed what the treasure in your possession is. I reckon that you have relied on that treasure to achieve what you have today. Of course, even though that treasure has helped you a lot, it is mainly because of your talent. After all, according to what I know, that treasure has actually been split into 4 parts. Among the 4 parts, only one of them is in the source world. The other 2 parts are in the Master of Chaos possession. As for the last part, I don't know where it has gone. Perhaps it is in the hands of the Time Master, or perhaps it is in the hands of the Master of Gods. 4 parts. 2 of them are in the hands of the Master of Chaos. Tsing Hui's heart skipped a beat. The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures nodded with a hint of sadness in his eyes. The loss of the supreme treasure is all because of our incompetence. Tsing Hui was puzzled when he heard the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures' words. It seemed these people thought he only had 1 piece of the Fortune Divine Jade, and that the other 2 pieces were in the hands of the Master of Chaos. However, the truth was, the Master of Chaos did not have the pieces of the Fortune Divine Jade at all. The 2 pieces were in his hands. Wait a minute, as for the other 2 pieces of Fortune Divine Jade, one of them was obtained from the Divine Wilderness Great World's Eastern Qian Ancient God Jun's Cultivation Cave, while the second piece was on the Fortune Mainland. From this, it could be seen that these 2 pieces of Fortune Divine Jade were originally in the Master of Primal Chaos territory. It was just that they were not in the Master of Primal Chaos hands. In that case, what exactly happened between the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures and the other's knowledge, and the wandering of the Fortune Divine Jade? A broken supreme treasure may allow one to become a great divine master, but it will be extremely difficult to progress further. Especially now that the Heavenly Tao is broken and the Great Tao is incomplete, it is not easy for an ordinary person to rely on such a supreme treasure to reach the Great Divine Master realm. On the contrary, although you are not a Great Divine Master now, in our opinion, the supreme treasure in your possession will definitely be much more effective than if it was passed to us. Therefore, we do not have any other thoughts about the treasure in your possession. The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures said with a smile. Although Tsing Hui did not completely trust him, he was relieved. Thank you for your help, Heavenly Lord. This was also because they thought he only had 1 piece of the Fortune Divine Jade, so they were magnanimous. If they knew that Tsing Hui had almost completed the Fortune Divine Jade and only had a small piece left, Tsing Hui estimated that there was an 80 to 90% chance that they would directly snatch it. Can you let me feel the great Tao law that you have comprehended? Of course, Tsing Hui said. In the next moment, he activated the characteristics of the great Tao of unity in his body. In an instant, the surrounding heaven and earth Yuan Qi was rapidly absorbed by him, transformed and condensed into one. Immediately after, the power of the great Tao on Tsing Hui's body changed again. Much of the heaven and earth Yuan Qi was rapidly repelled. All the information that passed through his area dissipated and was lost. This is the characteristic of my great Tao of unity. It can allow me to switch between existence and non-existence. If I exist, I will simplify everything until I devour and transform it into the power of the great Tao of unity. If I don't exist, I will repel everything, as if I am detached from the world. Any energy fluctuations around me will be broken down and lost. This power of the great Tao is very domineering. It is a bit similar to a celestial body in the starry sky. Qing Su nodded. I have indeed comprehended it based on the black holes in the celestial bodies. However, the essence of my great way is a universal singularity. It's just a pity that as I have never actually seen a universal singularity, my great way is still incomplete even now. It's only a fledgling. A universe singularity? Rumor has it that if you continuously trace the origin of a universe, its end point will be a singularity. The singularity you speak of is this singularity? Yes, similarly, it is the word one in Tao begets one. Therefore, I call my great Tao law the great Tao of unity. A universe singularity is indeed equivalent to the word one born from the great Tao. It is precisely because of the appearance of the universe singularity that the universe and all living things are further developed. It is like Tao begets one, one begets two begets three, and three begets all living things. The heavenly Lord of plentiful treasures nodded in agreement. At the same time, he sighed with emotion. Your great Tao is extremely profound, and it is a brand new great Tao that is completely compatible with you. With this great Tao, your life essence can transform and reach the level of chaos. If you don't die along the way, your future achievements will definitely be far above us. We are all cultivators of the ancient great Tao, but now our great Tao is broken, and our cultivation has fallen by a large margin compared to our peak. If not for the many treasures in our hands, we would not be a match for any of the 21 experts of the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, or the Master of Time. Moreover, as our great Tao continues to break, our cultivation will become weaker and weaker. One day our great Tao will disperse, and we will become mortals, or even dust under the erosion of time. Is there no way to avoid it? The heavenly Lord of plentiful treasures shook his head. With the great Tao broken, who can do anything about it? Unless someone can reshape the heavenly Tao and still choose to use the ancient great Tao as its foundation. However, to do this, the mighty power needed is unbelievably vast. Even the Tao ancestor at his peak might not be able to do this. This difficulty is equivalent to creating a great existence that is not inferior to the Master of Chaos, the Master of Time, or the Master of Gods. At this point, the heavenly Lord of plentiful treasures' expression dimmed. In fact, with his knowledge and experience, all of this was minimal. The heavenly Tao was the moment when the great Pan achieved eternity and returned to the past. It was created with the body of the past and contained the power of eternity. Otherwise, why would the heavenly Tao be besieged by the Master of Time, the Master of Chaos, the Master of Gods, and a series of other great beings and be shattered? However, the heavenly Lord of plentiful treasures clearly did not know about these secrets. Unless the great primordial ancestor, Pan, is willing to come back from the river of time, no one can reshape the heavenly Tao. Our current extravagant hope is to preserve the inheritance of the immortal Tao civilization. That is all. An elderly immortal emperor sighed. And to preserve the immortal Tao civilization and continue its legacy, we must have an existence that can stand against the Master of Time, the Master of Chaos, and the Master of Gods. We have lost all hope, but you, Tsing-Hui, are different. The Lord of Myriad Treasures continued the exalted immortal emperor's words and looked at Qing Su with shining eyes. There was a hint of anticipation on his face. You are a being of chaos, and the essence of your life is no less than that of the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, or the Lord of Gods. You are the one of us who has the greatest chance of standing up to these peak existences. If you can one day attain the great Tao and ascend to the origin Tao, the continuation of the immortal Tao civilization will no longer be an extravagant hope. We've discussed this for several days, and we've finally come to a decision. We've invited you here to gather the foundation of our civilization and lend you a hand. Chapter 876. Gather the foundations of the immortal Tao civilization and lend me a hand? Xing Hui was taken aback by this outcome. He found it hard to believe. That's right. Gather the foundations of the immortal Tao civilization and lend you a hand. The Lord of Myriad Treasures repeated, while our civilization of the immortal Tao cannot stand shoulder to shoulder with any of the top chaos beings like the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, or the Lord of Gods, our civilization of the celestial Tao still has ancient legacies, including a realm that was extremely precious to the exalted immortal Emperor, Exalted Heaven. Exalted Heaven? Exalted Heaven is an extremely unique existence. Transformed by the great Tao laws of the immortal Tao civilization, an endless stream of chaos energy is attracted to Exalted Heaven and transformed into great Tao origin. If a grand unity immortal Lord can comprehend the mysteries of the great Tao origin, he has a chance of becoming the exalted immortal Emperor and stepping into the 20th level. However, apart from these functions, Exalted Heaven has another special function, which is to simulate a chaotic environment. For cultivators below the quasi-saint realm, for those below the level of great divinity, such an environment can be called a land of death. Even great divinities can only live in it temporarily, but for creatures of chaos, this simulated environment, which is slightly less threatening than the real chaotic environment, can allow them to transform themselves into true chaotic beings in advance. Transform into true chaos beings? You're saying that I'm not a true chaos being yet? The Lord of Myriad Treasures smiled and said, Chaos creatures are chaos creatures because they can travel freely in the chaos void. Those who have never stepped into the chaos void are like flowers in a greenhouse. They will never understand the vastness and greatness of the chaos void. The Lord of Myriad Treasures glanced at Xing Hui with a complicated expression. In layman's terms, we're like big fish in a pond, while you're a fry born in the ocean. Even though we're larger than you, the characteristics of freshwater fish determine the upper limit of our growth. You, on the other hand, are different. Once you return to the ocean, infinite possibilities await you. Perhaps it won't be long before you surpass us by virtue of the fundamental differences between us. Qing Su understood what the Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasure was planning when he heard that. The chaos was the true home of chaos beings. It was just like marine fish living in the territory of river fish. Not only was it not beneficial, but it was also harmful. After a long time, it would only lead to the death of the marine fish. As a creature of chaos, it was the same for living in many macro worlds. This was also why Xing Hui had clearly comprehended the great path of unification, but his progress over the years was extremely slow. His combat strength had improved twice. One time, he relied on the 4 supreme swordsmanship of the Void Sword Pavilion, and the other time, it was the feedback of the sword spirit of Scarlet Abyss. On the contrary, most of the time, not only did his great path of unification not improve, but it was also affected by the interference of many forces, affecting the operation of his own great path. Then, thank you for your help, Heavenly Monarch. Since you were born in the Source World and obtained that supreme treasure, you can be considered to be part of our lineage. We will naturally do our best to help you. Since the Lord of Myriad Treasures was now expressing his goodwill to Xing Hui, he would naturally say beautiful words. Xing Hui, you can go ahead and cultivate. Being able to use the chaos environment set up by the Daluo Heaven and directly face the process of Daluo Heaven transforming the chaos vitality into the origin of the great path will definitely be of great benefit to the perfection of your great path. As for how far you can rely on these benefits to reach, it will completely depend on your own fortune. The seven-star sword spirit also spoke at this moment. Tsing Hui once again expressed his gratitude to the seven-star sword spirit. He understood that it was thanks to the seven-star sword spirit that he had the opportunity to cultivate in the Daluo heaven, comprehend the power of the Great Path, and experience the weakened chaos environment at a close distance. If not for this, he could not figure out why the Lord of Myriad Treasures, the Purple Gold Immortal Emperor, and the others would give such a precious opportunity to him. Only I can open the Daluo heaven, so I will personally take Tsing Hui there. The Lord of Myriad Treasures stood up and said to Tsing Hui at the same time, "Don't resist." After saying that, his figure moved, and the surrounding spatial laws automatically retreated. As the surrounding environment became blurry, the Lord of Myriad Treasures quickly began to shuttle through the void with Tsing Hui. The Lord of Myriad Treasures was extremely fast. As the Lord of Myriad Treasures shuttled through the void, Tsing Hui could clearly feel that he was getting farther and farther away from where he was just now. Moreover, he was flying in another direction. This direction was not simply east, west, north, south, up, down, left, right, but a direction that Tsing Hui had never come into contact with before. It was like a mortal walking on the surface of a star. He could understand forward, backward, left, and right, but he could not understand the specific concept of down or up because he had never had such an experience. The current Tsing Hui was like a person who had never left the earth. Under the lead of the Lord of Myriad Treasures, he rushed into the void. Moreover, it was not a void in the conventional sense. Instead, he directly left the atmosphere of the star and arrived outside the atmosphere. He had never left the gravitational force of the star, but was in the middle of the atmosphere. "It's here." The Lord of Myriad Treasures brought Tsing Hui to this void and sighed with emotion. The Daluocean was the highest achievement of the immortal Dao civilization. It was equivalent to the supreme celestial realm. Even in the Earth immortal realm where immortals gathered, the Daluocean was still a place that countless living beings yearned for. Every time the Lord of Myriad Treasures saw the Daluocean, he would associate it with the glory of the immortal Dao civilization when it was at its peak. Unfortunately, with the passage of time, the glory was no longer there. The current immortal Dao civilization was no longer as glorious as it was in the past. Tsing Hui also looked around. He could not sense any abnormalities in this void, but he could determine that their current location was probably in the depths of the void. It was not horizontal or vertical, but a kind of true interior of the void. Unfortunately, the Daluocean was clearly concealed by a kind of concealment divine ability. Although the Lord of Myriad Treasures said that the Daluocean was here, he could not sense any trace of it. Fortunately, the Lord of Myriad Treasures reminisced about the past for a moment and quickly focused his attention on the void in front of him. As he pinched the laws, the power of the great Tao in the surroundings gradually manifested, forming an extremely complicated great Tao talisman. These great Tao talisman gradually condensed into one under the Lord of Myriad Treasures' control, forming a spatial door. After a full hour, the spatial door finally formed completely. A vast world that was completely different from the starry sky in front of them suddenly appeared from the spatial door. When the spatial door appeared, Tsing Hui also sensed the auras of several Daluocean immortals. Moreover, these Daluocean immortals' auras were clearly stronger than those of Immortal Emperor Zi Jin and Immortal Emperor Tsonghat. They were clearly on the verge of breaking through to the great divinity realm. Lord of Heaven. The Lord of Heaven is here. Could there be another immortal lord with potential or an immortal emperor who is on the verge of breaking through? The Lord of Myriad Treasures stepped into the spatial door with Tsing Hui. Immediately, several divine consciousnesses were transmitted from inside. The Lord of Myriad Treasures nodded to these immortal emperors one by one. Kong Long, Shanli, Qingzhu, Yunlan, Lord of Heaven. This is, after everyone bowed to the Lord of Myriad Treasures one by one, their eyes quickly fell on Tsing Hui who was behind the Lord of Myriad Treasures. Tsing Hui had formed his own great Tao. Ordinary people could not sense his depth at all. Before he displayed his miraculous abilities, even these Daluotian immortals before him were no exception. This is Taoist Tsing Hui. I brought Taoist Tsing Hui here this time to send him to the Heavenly Gate to cultivate. The Heavenly Gate? Shanli was shocked. The Heavenly Gate is permeated with primordial chaos chi. This primordial chaos chi has yet to be transformed into origin energy by the great Tao of Daluotian. Only those with great divine power can withstand it. Even if we Daluotian immortals go in, we will have to retreat from the Heavenly Gate to rest for a while. The entire process is harmful. This Taoist can cultivate in the Heavenly Gate. Could he be a new Lord of Heaven? It's a long story. I'll bring him to the Heavenly Gate first. We can talk about it later. The Lord of Myriad Treasures said as he led the Lord of Heaven forward again. As they hurried along, Tsing Hui quickly realized that the Daluotian was different from the outside world. In the outside world, the great Tao was obscure and the primordial chaos chi was not obvious. However, in the Daluotian, the great Tao of Tao was like a three-dimensional projection. Ordinary people could read it to their heart's content. In the sky above the Daluotian, there was an endless stream of extremely pure energy. If anyone comprehended the great Tao of Tao, they only needed to refine the pure energy and their cultivation would immediately improve by leaps and bounds. Cultivating in such a place for a year was probably more efficient than cultivating in the outside world for tens of thousands of years. As expected of the highest heaven of the immortal Tao civilization, Tsing Hui said sincerely, "It's a pity that the Daluotian is in ruins. It can only support 5 or 6 immortal emperors and 100 or so immortal lords. Moreover, the immortal emperors have to cultivate in pairs. Otherwise, the phenomena caused by each immortal emperor's comprehension of the great Tao would disturb the cultivation of others. If they weren't careful, they would run the risk of cultivation deviation. It wouldn't be like the Daluotian of the past, when there were hundreds and thousands of origin immortal emperors in seclusion." The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures sighed. Before long, he arrived below the Heaven Gate with Ching Su. The Heavenly Gate was where the Daluotian converted the primordial chaos chi. Primordial chaos chi with a diameter of over 10,000 kilometers was visible to the naked eye as it poured down. This area of 10,000 kilometers was not primordial chaos, but it was close to it. When Tsing Hui arrived in this region, he could clearly sense that the circulation of his great Tao had become more agile, and the essence of his soul was vaguely cheering. However, while he was cheering, he also felt an immense pressure when he was freed from the gray energy. His soul and even the great Tao laws he had comprehended felt like they could not bear the weight of this pressure. You can cultivate here. If you feel that you can't take it anymore, you can leave the Heaven's Gate. As for how much you can improve in this cultivation, whether you can completely transform into a true life form of chaos will depend on your own fortune. Many thanks, Lord of Myriad Treasures. Tsing Hui bowed again. Go. With that, the Lord of Myriad Treasures turned and left. Preparations for a new book will begin on Wednesday. Normally, a new book's preparation period will take 1 to 2 months. If 2 books are prepared at the same time, it will be impossible to store more manuscripts. The release of the old book will also decrease and become irregular. However, Chungfin will do his best to make sure that the 2 books will be updated next weekend. Chapter 877. Chaotic Vital Energy. Tsing Hui went deep into the chaotic vital energy and carefully sensed its nature. Its nature, it was somewhat different from the great Tao that Tsing Hui understood. The chaotic vital energy did not have a direct effect on the great Tao. Instead, it gave Tsing Hui a feeling that it was an empty space. Yes, it was like a vacuum in the vast starry sky. For those mortals who had yet to transform into cosmic life forms, If they entered the starry sky outside a star's atmosphere, they would naturally die. However, for true cosmic life forms, there were many things that mortals could not sense in the endless starry sky without any matter or atmosphere, such as magnetic fields, rays, radiation, particles, and so on. However, non-cosmic life forms could not sense these things at all. Once they were exposed to these rays, death would be the only thing that awaited them. At this moment, Tsing Hui had gone directly from the atmosphere to the starry sky. Although the starry sky looked very empty, it did not have much of an impact on Tsing Hui. On the contrary, his great Tao seemed to have broken free from the suppression of the internal environment and became more active. It was like breaking through the sound barrier in a star was extremely difficult due to the obstruction of the atmosphere, but in the starry sky it was all very easy. Tsing Hui's current situation was the same. The unprecedentedly active Great Tao and the medium that carried the continuation of the Great Tao allowed Tsing Hui to have a new understanding of his own Great Tao in an instant. Moreover, this kind of understanding could be said to be growing day by day. It was as if a door that had been tightly closed had suddenly opened to him, allowing him to truly understand what kind of world was real. Chaotic life forms. For chaotic life forms, the chaotic void is their final destination. Tsing Hui muttered to himself. He was like a meteorite that traveled from the starry sky. If he stayed inside a star, he would just be an ordinary meteorite. The intelligent life forms inside the star could dismember him. However, in the vast starry sky, with the help of the unique environment of the vast starry sky, he could easily accelerate himself infinitely. When his speed increased to a certain extent, it would be easy for him to destroy a star. Tsing Hui stood in the midst of the chaotic vital energy. Without the interference and influence of other Great Tao, his Great Tao extended and changed freely, evolving towards its final form. At the same time that his Grand Tao laws were ceaselessly transforming and growing, his body was tempered by the chaotic origin energy, causing it to become even more compatible with his Grand Tao laws. After that, it was ceaselessly strengthened and perfected under the imperceptible influence of the convergence Grand Tao, causing him to naturally be able to develop even more Grand Tao laws. This was a virtuous cycle. The strengthening of Great Tao and its compatibility with his body made his body stronger. As his body grew stronger, he could evolve more Great Tao power to temper his body and become more compatible with the Great Tao, causing his body gradually becoming a vessel. In other words, the laws of the Great Tao were changing according to the vehicles in the world. Tao transformation. This was Tao transformation. Tsing Hui's mind was enlightened. Suddenly, he understood what was happening to him at this moment. Apart from the Lord of Chaos and the 12 divine beasts, this was the highest achievement of the Lord of Chaos's cultivation path, Tao transformation. The Lord of Chaos's cultivation path was influenced by the 12 divine beasts. Even if the great masters of the Tao transformation realm were to evolve their great Tao to the extreme, they would be restricted by the innate upper limit of the 12 divine beasts and be unable to truly reach the level of the 12 divine beasts. In other words, there was an upper limit to their growth. But as a chaotic life form, Tsing Hui, he had no idea what the upper limit was. As long as the matter in this chaotic void could support it, his evolution of the Great Tao could continue indefinitely until it reached the limit of what he could understand, until it could no longer be transformed or evolve. Time passed. After an indeterminate amount of time, Tsing Hui gradually felt that his Great Tao evolution seemed to be slowing down. He diverted some of his attention to carefully size up his surroundings and quickly understood the reason. After all, the void he was in was not the real chaotic void, but the chaotic Yuan Qi transformed from Daluocean. The chaotic void formed by the chaotic Yuan Qi was obviously incomparable to the real chaotic void. In other words, the supporting effect of this chaotic void on the evolution of the Great Tao was also incomparable to the real chaotic void. Now, I can already adapt to this weakened version of the chaotic void. I just don't know what the effect of stepping into the real chaotic void will be. I'll go ask the Lord of Myriad Treasures. As a great master, I don't know if he has ever been to the real chaotic void. In addition, the 10-year period I mentioned to Rockheart is about to arrive. I have to make a trip to the divine wilderness great world and explain the situation there. As Tsing Hui thought to himself, he consolidated his cultivation base a little. His figure flashed, and he left the range of the Elysium and flew toward the interior of Daluocean. However, not long after Tsing Hui left the range of the Elysium, he immediately felt the friction between his great Tao laws and the great Tao laws of Daluocean. Previously, he had lived in an environment filled with chaotic Yuan Qi, and there was no complete great Tao evolution there. Now that he had entered Daluocean, the great Tao laws appeared around him, and when they collided with his own great Tao laws, it naturally caused waves of turbulence. Tsing Hui was less than 1,000 kilometers away from the Elysium, and the collision between his great Tao and the great Tao laws of Daluocean set off a violent tide of laws that spread out in all directions. This feeling is somewhat similar to the friction between a fast-moving object in outer space and the atmosphere of a planet. Tsing Hui did his best to withdraw his great Tao laws, but due to the domineering nature of the unity law, he felt like he was about to become a black hole, devouring all the law energy around him and simplifying it until it was compatible with the unity law and became a part of it. No matter how hard he tried, he could only suppress this reaction to a radius of 100 meters. Fortunately, the ripples of great Tao laws on Tsing Hui had attracted the attention of the Lord of Myriad Treasures, who had yet to leave Daluocean. In a flash, he appeared in the air not far from Tsing Hui. After exchanging a glance with the Origin Immortal Emperors who had come with him, they all took action at the same time, manifesting their great Tao laws to suppress the ripples caused by the collision of great Tao and great Tao energy. This was to prevent the shock waves from sweeping through Daluocean and disturbing the cultivation of the Grand Unity Immortal Lords of Daluocean, causing them to suffer from cultivation deviation. What a domineering great Tao energy! The Heavenly Lord of Myriad Treasures looked at the pulses of ways that Qing Su was unable to suppress and sighed emotionally from the bottom of his heart. You really are a chaotic life form after all. In just a decade you've actually improved so rapidly. You're probably close to becoming a true chaotic life form now. All you need to do is head to the true chaotic space and complete that final step, becoming a peak existence that's no weaker than great ability users. It's too smooth. I never thought that cultivation could be so smooth. Everything seems to be flowing naturally and effortlessly. That's because you're already a being of the chaos. Only when a being of the chaos enters the chaos can you truly be like a fish in water. If it were us who approached the Heaven's Gate, let alone cultivate, we'd be lucky if we didn't get injured by the chaos energy. Qing Su nodded when he heard that. Although the Lord of Myriad Treasures and the others possessed the power of great Tao, their great Tao was dependent on the existence of the immortal Tao civilization. Once they left the range of the immortal Tao civilization, the power of great Tao would no longer be able to protect them. Since the great Tao didn't exist in the chaos, they'd be fine for a short time if they went into the environment of the chaos. When do you plan to go to the chaos? The chaos is different from the outside world. No laws exist there, and even the many laws we understand are completely different from the outside world. It's a place where the great Tao doesn't manifest. Time, space, mass, weight, density, and everything else have no basis. All living beings rely on their own great Tao laws to exist. In other words, the chaos is a land of endless darkness, and we're like pedestrians holding a candle in the darkness. The only thing we know of is our own existence, and the only thing we can sense is ourselves. When the Lord of Myriad Treasures said this, there was a hint of reverence in his expression. Compared to the entire chaotic void, existences like us are too insignificant. Even the slightest wind and wave can extinguish this weak candle flame in our hands, causing us to fall into eternal darkness and silence. Although Tsing Hui had never seen the true chaos, his expression turned grave when he heard the Lord of Myriad Treasures' words. You ended your seclusion this time because I want to see the true primal chaos void, Lin Feng said. You want to see the true chaos? The Lord of Myriad Treasures stared at Qing Su and pondered for a while. He sensed carefully before saying, even though I don't know if a chaotic being of your level can truly survive in the chaotic void, it shouldn't be a problem if I just take a look. However, going to the chaotic void and back will take quite a lot of time. Even if we leave the exalted heaven and head to the chaotic void, it'll still take a few decades for a round trip. If you consider the fact that you plan to cultivate, it'll take even longer. It's best if you hand over your current matters for now. That's exactly what I'm planning to do. I want to deal with any future problems first. How about we set a deadline in 100 years? Then let's do as you say. I'll go into seclusion for a while, and it won't take long. Thank you for your help, Lord of Myriad Treasures. It's no matter. I'm becoming more and more convinced of the 7 stars theory after seeing your extraordinary achievements in just 10 years. Given time, our immortal Tao civilization might really need your help to get rid of our fate of hiding from place to place. The Lord of Myriad Treasures smiled. As for making the immortal Tao civilization stand on equal footing with the Lord of Time, the Lord of Chaos, and the Lord of Gods, or even restoring the glory of the immortal Tao civilization to its peak, the Lord of Myriad Treasures didn't even think about it. After all, Tsing Hui was too far away from the 3 great existences. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.